What is up and welcome back to another episode of the FNtasia podcast. We have a very special episode because the grand finals of EU, NA and all the regions across the world have wrapped up. We know who's going to globals now. We know who is good and who is bad, which it seems like we all struggle to figure out sometimes on this podcast.
Yeah, all the time.
So yeah, let's just talk about, of course, no spoilers. We got, everyone should know that now. Vic0 and Flickzy won on EU. Peterbot and Pollo won on NA. We're actually going to have Vic0 for an interview later on in the show, so stick around and listen and wait for that because we'll be talking to one of the winners of FNCS. But guys, what did we think of grand finals? I guess actually we should probably talk about what happened before grand finals because obviously we recorded an episode last week talking about what we thought would happen, and then a day before grand finals, Epic decided to completely change the whole meta and make it so that Slurp Cacti no longer recharge. Specifically for grand finals, because now that we're recording this after grand finals, they've actually reverted it now and they do recharge again.
I mean, it was great timing, honestly. I don't know why they did it like on the weekend, exactly on the Friday to the Monday. Must have been some important event going on for some reason that the slurp plants were just disabled. It was a weird bug that only happened on those days. But on the bright side, to be fair, like some of our predictions were absolutely cooked anyway. So like the slurp plant changes gives an excuse for why we're wrong. So, or mainly why Harry is wrong sometimes.
No, our bracket was actually not too bad
it was
from last
good.
week.
Actually, yeah.
Our bracket was really good.
Yeah, thank you to Vivid for putting Acorn and Cold that far forward and convincing you guys, because yeah, that was one of the teams we didn't expect. But no, I think the Slurp Cacti change was good in general. Like I felt like there was a lot of action happening, a lot of teams fighting. From a viewer perspective, I felt like this Grands in comparison to the upper and lower bracket was so much better to watch. Not just because of the grand finals, but the change just made it that there was just so much action constantly and so many different ways people were trying to play that it was actually so enjoyable to watch.
It's definitely something that I feel like is intentional, right? And I would, if I'm doing my conspiracy theory here, I would garner a guess that this didn't come from internally from like the competitive team, but rather this came from like a push from like the broadcast side, because obviously the broadcast has been looking a lot more commercial lately. There's like advertisements on the broadcast, stuff like that. So like they want to boost up the viewership now all of a sudden, which they're incentivized to do so. So I think, from a competitive standpoint, it was obviously a really, really bad thing. But if you look at like the larger picture now, this is actually a great thing because like people at Epic, or maybe the broadcast team as well, are finally starting to care about the viewership and things that have repercussions for the viewership, like a boring ass meta where everyone's in the Storm Surge Tower. So from comp side, absolutely sucks, and a lot of teams got screwed out of it. But from a viewer perspective, I mean, dude, this was one of the best FNCSs I think we've had in a very long time.
That's an interesting theory you have there.
Don't act like you don't know, Levin.
No, but if I'm being honest, I don't believe that's the case. If I'm being honest with you, I don't believe that's the case. I don't, and I say that just because like I don't think you're right. This is one of the best grand finals to watch in so long. But I think the reasons for that were already determined before Cacti were changed or not. Like I don't think Cacti. I don't think people saw the Fortnite status tweet on Friday and went, I can't wait to watch grand finals now. And like more and more people watch. Like, I think there's already a like promotional problem for like grand finals. Like, I feel like we could be doing way more to promo it and get people talking about it. I don't think this did that. Like, I don't think this change affected viewership. It made the viewing experience better. So I'm sure it kept the people who were already watching like still watching, but I think most people are gonna watch. Yeah, like I feel like most people are gonna watch anyway. Like I don't know. I just don't think that the broadcast people are like, please change Cactus so it's like watchable. I don't think that happened. I feel like maybe there was like I think everybody involved from like an Epic side probably watched what was happening during semis and was like, well, this is shit. We can't have this. Like and it was more but again, but I like how you're thinking, but I just don't think.
I guess I think it could be like a bit of both. Like I'd say like it has to be a part of that decision making or like the process for that, right? Like things are changing, right? Like if you're someone from the outside, obviously 11 maybe can't speak on it too much, but like if you're from the outside, at least from my side, like you're seeing like Esports World Cup being advertised, you're seeing random Fortnite being advertised to great success. So, like there's things changing broadcast side and also in the background that I can't say as well. Like there's a lot of stuff also being changed, which is paused in that sense. So, I mean, I'm sticking to my conspiracy theory. And I think like it's something that's being considered now, at least at the very minimum, at least. and that's always going to be a positive thing. So,
oh yeah, for sure. And I think, look, as from a coach's perspective, 24 hours before grand finals or less, you have to change basically everything you prepared for a grand finals. That is not enjoyable. It's a very stressful experience you have to go through, and it's for the players. I feel sorry for them all, because a lot of players who underperformed, realistically, they would have done so much better if the Cacti change wasn't there. They looked a lot better. They had much more structured game plans, and it's no surprise at the top of the leaderboard, a lot of the teams were more fighting teams that it didn't matter that it changed the game plan too much from Cacti. They could just still go and fight. They could still do these things, right? But for the teams who are more prepared and more structured in the way they play, having 24 hours to try and figure out how to solve a lot of problems is a massive puzzle. It's like you just make a whole puzzle and then they just literally just destroy the puzzle and give you a new one for literally like a 10th of the time to be able to solve it, or even less. It's like, at that point, I feel sorry for a lot of the players, but as you're saying, from a viewer perspective, it was a joy to watch. And I think, Levin, I know you touched on about it. I think keeping viewers watching. Yes, maybe it didn't introduce new viewers into watching the finals, but it kept other people watching. It kept the people who already watch finals might watch one game and go, "Oh, this is a bit shit," or "The mid game's boring. I'm not going to watch the rest." And they see fight after, action, like constant action. It keeps those people watching, which naturally is going to increase the viewership a little bit.
Yeah, I think overall the change was a good change. It was just terrible timing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing that we should take away from this, in that everybody knew Cacti was going to be, anybody who follows comp strongly and like is into comp, like people like ourselves, people like pro players, all of these people were very much like, hey, Cacti is going to be a problem. This is like bad. Like, please do something about this, from very early in the season.
Yeah.
And we just let it simmer and let it fester and let it fester. And then we get to semifinals. It's the worst it's going to get, of course, because over the course of the season, more and more people clock on to just how stupid it is. And then now we decide we want to change something. It's like, no, it shouldn't be that way. We should have done something much sooner in the season, I think, at least.
Thinking further ahead. Like, I just don't think Epic a lot of time think further ahead of like, what can pro players do to not basically abuse it, right? What can they do to make it so this, like, take the item or the weapon or whatever to the extremes, like limit test it. It feels like they bring an item and it doesn't feel like they think further than just, oh, this would be cool for, casual players being able to roam around the map and get shield. They don't think how a pro player is going to take this item or weapon or whatever it is to the fullest, and how can they abuse it? Because we've had multiple things this season. We've had the Fist, we've had the cards, we've had the Nitros, and now we had the Cacti, which all by grand finals got nerfed to the point, or even removed, like nerfed to the point where they're basically a completely different item to what they were at the start. And it's like, some forethought, some thinking ahead will help solve a lot of these problems. We don't want them to change the entire game from what they release. We just want it to be competitive and not unenjoyable to watch or play.
It's the thing is with that is the issue that Epic has, and it's been something that's been going on for a while, is that one man can't decide the future of like competitive and like the way like it goes forward, right? Like, it's a whole ass process. I've talked about it multiple times. Like, Epic on the inside, as far as I know, I don't know exactly, but like it's obvious. It's like a big bureaucracy, right? Like, you have people in the competitive team. They're like, okay, all the people in the Discord, they're complaining about this, complaining about that. Now I gotta talk to old Jeffrey, who's at the top of the teams. Now he's gonna talk to the competitive team, and then he's gonna talk to the pub team, and then we gotta talk to the developers to see how the things can change, like if that's gonna bug anything. And then like it's like 3 weeks down the line, okay, we have an answer. Damn, we're removing Slurp plants in the next weekend. We got the developers to turn it off now. Like there's a lot of process to it internally, which I think a lot of people don't understand. Is like, yeah, they have the decision, they know these things, and it comes too late most of the time. But at the end of the day, they do always, as far as I feel like in this whole chapter, they make the right decision, right? They don't make the right decision on time, but they do make the right decision. It's just the process internally at Epic needs some sort of changes so that it doesn't happen one day before. And I don't think that's ever going to change because, yeah, it's a big company. There's multiple aspects and groups within the company that you need, like, approval from, and it's a mess. Speaking to Epic employees as well, they've told me, yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Moving on from that, though, actual grand finals itself, Vic0 and Flickzy won. Congratulations to Vic0 and Flickzy. we obviously spoke a bunch about them last week when we were doing our sort of predictions, and I think the general consensus was like, hey, this is a team that's on an incredible run. The expectations are going to be high from them. I know my personal sentiment was I thought that come grand finals, in a world where the Slurp Cacti change didn't happen, it was going to be a lot harder for them than it had been in cash cups and whatnot. Obviously, the change comes and things aren't actually as bad. I feel like when you look at like how things ended up going for them, obviously we've spoken all year about how like it's so hard to get Surge from Reckless. Reckless getting Surge from there is just not a cook. It's not a cook. It's not a cook. We come to grand finals, they were farming Surge out of Reckless. Like it felt like every team in the Northeast was rotating through Reckless during second and third zone, and they were just sat there ready to just beat up everybody there. And Surge was never a problem. I don't think they got ticked by Surge a single time during all 12 games.
I saw that Kin stat. It's like 0 Surge ticks is insane.
Yeah, they were close a couple of games. There was a couple of games that were very close, but yeah, to hop on your point about it, it's like, it's a very interesting thing, the whole Reckless thing, right? Because you watch how a lot of other teams would play. They'd loot Reckless, then they would stay in Reckless. And what that kind of creates is a way that, you know, you're shooting teams away from Reckless, and they're less likely to rotate in. But what they were doing, Vic0 and Flickzy, is they'd loot, and then you'd go elsewhere for Surge, either to the graveyard to fight a team, or down to the right side to fight a team, or towards Mount Olympus. And then they would pad back to the forecast. And then by that point, because they're not sat on Surge bases in Reckless, stopping teams rotating in, there's already 2 to 3 teams in Reckless. So they go away, get their early Surge, and then they can come back in second zone when, you guessed it, all these teams have rotated in, and they can go box fight them, tag them, and it solves the Reckless problem. The problem before was when you're tagging teams away from Reckless and you're making them scared to come into Reckless, you have an area which is like 500 meters where no one's going to rotate near. So getting away from it, coming back in, and getting that extra surge to then be able to carry, you know, those good weapons in endgame, the SMGs and, you know, the better ARs, allows them to then transition that into really good endgames as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people look at Vic0 and Flickzy's FNtasia win and think, yeah, they only won because they're good WQs and they're good fighters. But like most of the time, they came into endgame maybe with 1 or 2 kills. Like they take box fights, but a lot of it was intentional, like you said. Like every single game, like they had Forecast Tower for free. And I spoke to Vic0 right after FNtasia Grand Finals in an interview. And it was like, yeah, we got very lucky. 11 out of the 12 Forecast Towers spawned for them in FNtasia Grand Finals. But they also had a team that never took it from them. That team that landed to the south, I think Good and Forzen, never took the forecast out once. They gave them that respect, which means that, you know, again, there's no teams near them on the forecast tower while they're waiting to get surge. So basically what they do then is just box up the forecast tower, run to the mountains or run to a different POI, sneak up on a team, and then run back. And then they have all of that room of all the teams running into a POI again. So they did it smart. Like there's a lot more than people thought prepared into what Vic0 and Flickzy did, other than just W-keying people, carrying an SMG, and not using DMRs to surge tag.
Yeah. I was going to quickly say, they made it look so easy. Like the things you watch, right? It makes you realize, why did this not what happened the last 2 seasons from Reckless? Like the way they're playing is like, yes, they're going and fighting, but as you said, they're not just dropping 30 kills and then getting to endgame. They're getting 1 kill, maybe even no kills, just getting extra early surge, and then coming back, and there's so many teams. It looked like a completely different POI to what we had watched in the past 2 seasons from EU.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. I think maybe slight differences in like the team to the south. Like before, when it was Janice and Flickzy, right? Like Pink and Vic0 are more involved in that, like that forecast tower and like fighting and whatnot.
Yeah, no, for sure.
My VMix is frozen. Am I cooked?
Just refresh, I think.
Am I good? Okay, I'm still here. Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, but I think even then, like the past 2 seasons, they could have just rotated out of Reckless still and gone north somewhere, or even gone to the mountains still as before, and then come back afterwards, or padded back in afterwards, and it still probably would have had a similar reaction. But yeah, you're right. Having forecast 11 out of the 12 games at their forecast, not contestable, good and reinforced, and not ever going for it. It helps. You're basically getting 2 landing spots for free, but that's nothing to take away from their placement. If you're able to claim a forecast tower from Reckless, that's that scary of a team fighting that teams don't want to go for forecast. It's not just that they don't want to take it; it's that they don't want to grief themselves by dying.
Well, yeah, it's like you have to remember, why do they have it free? They've conditioned in previous tournaments for them to have it free, you know. So all in all, I thought it was a great performance. Of course, when you actually look at the individual performances of Vic0 and Flickzy as well, some of the best sort of fragging performances we've seen in a long time. Vic0 obviously broke the record for limbs in a grand finals that was previously held by Vic0. He got 43 limbs in grands, which was just mental. And of course, Vico's getting a lot of the plaudits. You know, we were joking about how like Vico streams popping off now as well, like, and he's getting a lot of the praise and the attention. Flickzy was just as phenomenal. I think when you look at like damage stats, they're near enough even almost, right? Vico obviously had a bit more, but it's like Flickzy's damage stats incredible. Harry, you were talking about like, you know, decision making and like when you watch through some of their games, which I did after the fact, like Flickzy's making a lot of really great decisions, like in just in terms of like just putting them in good spots to set up for success. Like from an IGL perspective, Flickzy did a phenomenal job. So a lot of praise goes to him. Like they were just two of the best individual players in grands. They had a very good game plan, and they won. You know, and there's one, and one thing that I think is really nice about this win for them is like there's not really much you can use outside of just going like, oh, the Slurp Cacti changed the day before. Like there's not really much you can use to say like they didn't deserve to win, or like, you know, like people will be like Peterbot and Pollo had the fucking Grim coin, or like they didn't have a broken medallion, or they didn't have this or that. Like, yes, they were a fighting team, but it's not even like they were just W keying fully and like stupid. Like they just played really good Fortnite and played better than everybody else for the most part.
Yeah, they made 12 endgames. We talked about this on when we were doing the brackets. Like, if a team's going to make 12 endgames, they're going to place this highly. And they're one of the few teams who are able to make 12 endgames. And as you said, they didn't even get ticked by Surge once.
Crazy.
That is insane. You know, the only time teams are ever going to be close to that, obviously teams who are contested or whatever, but uncontested, never getting ticked by Surge and being able to make endgames that consistently is like, it's a recipe for success. And they're not just two fighters who are making dumb mistakes in the mid game. Because, you know, when you think of two fighters, you think the end games are either going to be messy or they're going to make some mistakes within the mid game that they're going to be scuffed going into end game. It looked like none of that at all. They made really nice storm rotates in the mid game to make sure they're stacked. They made sure that in end game they set themselves up for success, and they didn't really it felt like they didn't really make many mistakes, which for, you know, we think about Vic0, you know, the whole free loot thing and when he was playing with Pink and some of the individual mistakes he'd make, right? You watch this, it felt like a very, very flawless finals, to be honest.
It's also, they were coordinated, right? Like the thing that they did was that they didn't make plays in late game. There was one specific game, it's the end game we're watching right now as well, where it was game, I think, number 10, and it was Swizzy, Vanya, Chap, and Teeny just build fighting height for 3 minutes straight, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that was mainly because obviously they were behind in points, so they were panicking and they were making moves. They're trying to make big plays to try to make a comeback. But Vic0 and Flickzy never had any of those type of games, right? We never saw them point flipping high ground. They played mid ground, low ground until they start. Okay, we have mats now. We got refreshes. Height is scuffed. All right, well now we're gonna go for height, and it shows that, you know, Flickzy, for someone that everyone expects to be like a dumb W keyer, you know, like it's a young dumb W keyer. He had a lot of patience and the mentality was good. And that's what I said in the bracket when we were doing predictions as well. Like, how good is their mental going to be when the lights are bright and they're in, you know, first place with 4 more games to go? Are they going to panic? Are they going to make stupid plays? Are they going to be below Surge? Are they going to be scared? And they didn't. They weren't scared at all. And they showed like, they showed that they were basically veterans. Even though they are both veteran players, we always put them in a bubble of, you know, dumb W keys and like young players that don't really know what they're doing. But I mean, dude, they were looking like a very seasoned team. And I know one of the questions the audience is always going to ask now is, what's the difference between this season with Flickzy for Vic0 and with Pink? You know, like was you know, obviously looking at results and stuff, like, was Pink the problem here? That's the number one question I asked this season. Was Pink the problem? And in my opinion, I don't think it's Pink specifically, but I think it's just Vic0 now blossoming and blooming as a player.
So I've had this conversation with a bunch of people, and what I look to is simply player empowerment. You know, one of the most powerful things you see in any sport, any esport, is when you allow the most talented players and you embolden them and give them, you know, authority to make decisions and to make plays, and you really empower them, make them feel like they are the ones in control. And I think the problem at times with Pink and Vico is that like Vico didn't feel empowered.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that again with a bunch of other successful teams in the past that ended up not being successful. I feel like when you look at Tasting the Moustache, who went from winning an FNTS, by the end of the year, things were just terrible, right? It's like Moustache didn't feel empowered in that duo. I think the same could be said for Vico playing under Pink. And that's not necessarily a fault on Pink. You could argue that it's a fault on Pink, right? But I think there was dynamics there, relationship-wise and playstyle-wise, that made that not the case. With Flickzy, it's very, very clear that Vico is much more empowered, right? Like Flickzy's gonna make all the great decisions and lead them to good spots and ultimately like do what a good IGL needs to do. But Vico now just has way more authority to do the things that Vico wants to do. And that confidence alone can turn A player to an A+ player. And that is the difference sometimes in winning an FNTS. And so, yeah, I think it comes down to just player empowerment. Like Vico is way more empowered. Obviously, we all like at the start of the season, we highlighted like the comms aspect of it, right? And like maybe will comms be better and vibes would be better because they're both like more similar culturally, right? Like, you know, again, I think when you look at Flickzy and Vico, you could make the case that these guys can like be friends, like actually, you know, whereas like with Pink and Vico, like IRL, like Pink and Vico IRL, like they're not two people that see each other on the street and become friends and close and do you know what I mean? So I think those are like the factors of like what's the difference there. You know, without going into too deep of a conversation on Pink, like it sucks for Pink. I mean, to see like as a player, like this must just suck.
It's gotta hurt, you know. There's no way it doesn't.
Yeah, no, it must do to
like
some
every
degree.
player has a bit of ego, right? In this case, like you always want to think that you're the best player on your team, and then seeing someone do so afterwards. But I think the word use empowerment is really good, right? Like, who knows if Vico would have ever been this good if he didn't have those growing pains with Pink? And I honestly, I think you can give partially some of this FNTS win to Pink as well because he did.
He won't feel that.
Oh yeah, I mean he doesn't care about that, but like like sometimes you gotta step down to go up, you know. Like the growing pains were a part of Vico's natural process as growing as a player, and now that he's been quote unquote unleashed into something different, like now he feels like, hey, now I'm capable as a player. And I told him like, you know what, Vico, you're finally a tier 1 player now, because that was the one thing I always kept telling him, dude, you're a tier 2 man. Like I don't think you're ever gonna win an FNTS with this current situation, but he's actually, I think, a tier 1 player now with the way he's playing. He's very good. I'm very proud of him.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what? Let's just do the interview with Vico now. We're going to throw to that interview and you can see us talking with Vico about his FNTS win and his season and all things Vico. Cut to it. Zoom.
Yeah.
The one and only reigning FNCS champion is here with us now. Vico. How are you feeling, man? First of all, congratulations. Congratulations, brother. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling great. I don't think I could ever feel better, you know. Everything's going my way now. So yeah.
I see your mum's in the back and know she's been supporting you. She's been supporting your career like crazy. I'm sure this was like a great feeling just in general. Like the vibes in the house on the weekend must have been unreal, right?
Yeah, they were unreal. I mean, they're still unreal now. Like every time my mom just hears the word FNTS Grand Finals, she just starts crying. So yeah. She's just actually
keep
happy.
It quiet then, mate.
It's kind of hard, you know, like playing with that pickaxe, you know, like.
Easy, man. Yeah, that pickaxe. I mean, you've been asking for it the whole 2 days, man.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted it, man. It's just like a buff to the game, you know. Like once you have it, you just feel like 10 times better. I don't know.
It's like having a trophy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, to my trophy. Yeah.
Until it's gone in like 3 months or something.
Hey, who knows? Maybe I'm gonna win that, you know.
True. Yeah,
true.
There's a possibility in anything. So.
Exactly.
Well, talk to us about like your performance this weekend. Obviously, you guys coming into Grands, you won 3 back-to-back cash cups. You know, you did in the semis, you came 6th in like 2 of the set lobbies, right? Which technically was first on consistency. Like basically, you guys are just winning like every set lobby you were playing going into it. Like, did you sort of going into this finals think, okay, we're just like surely we are just gonna win? Like, were you know? With the Slurp Cacti changes, do you think that made a big difference to your Grands? Like, talk to me about like the road leading up to Grands and how that sort of was.
Well, leading up to Grands, like we just basically went into every cup like we either said like either we're gonna win or we're gonna do top 5, because there was like no possibility that we were gonna do bad, to be honest, because like no other team in EU had like that much fighting power that we had. And I mean, you guys saw it on the broadcast or like even in game watching cash caps or something. We had like basically reckless uncount and our split. Like we had to tower every game for free. So that just like it granted us so much more like space. Like we can just run around, fight a team on dead sides, and then like just play the game out normally. And I mean, leading up to Grands, we just kept that consistency. Like after like the first 2 cash caps, where we got 5th and 3rd, where we qualified. After that, we just like we looked at the cash caps, we looked at our mistakes, what we did, what we could have done better, and then leading up to FNTS, we didn't want to leak anything, so we just played like what we thought would be the best. And I mean, we didn't qual week 2, but week 1 we qualified. We got 9 teams, so not the best performance, but it helped us qual upper bracket. And then the caches after that, yeah, we just won them because I mean we just use it for practice because there's like certain stuff we can only do in dual cache steps that we can't do in like pro practice games like Noble without getting banned. So yeah, we just decided to like take dual cache caps completely serious and like just do what we would actually do in Grands. Like Raz like told us before every dual cache cap final that we played, he said it's basically like a Grands lobby, just like with worse players in it. And I mean, we just thought it was Grands lobbies, and I mean it worked out great. We just played the guns we would play in Grands, and it therefore helped us like prepare for Grands. And then going into Grands, we just said, yeah, this is just a normal dual cache cap final lobby. Don't think anything about it and just play the same guns you used to play. Like, and then I mean, we went in with the same confidence, just did the same things we did in the cash caps, and we won because of Flickzy solo cash cap, solo clash. So yeah.
Would you say that like winning duo cash cups, because you won 3 duo cash cups, would you say that actually helps you in an FNTasia's Grand Finals lobby? Because like obviously you getting forecast tower uncontested, right? Because you know the aura factor, but like at the same time, people might avoid you more on the map, which means Surge is harder. How do you think that affected like the FNTasia's Grand Finals in that case?
Well, it definitely affected us a lot because there were certain moments where we were like, yeah, we're gonna die to Surge's game, or we're definitely gonna have struggles. But I think the cash cups definitely helped, especially because like with this meta now, like with all the changes coming in weekly sometimes, like Cacti being gone one day before Grands, like all that stuff, it like definitely helped in the cash cups because I mean we didn't really have the Cacti anyway, so it didn't really bother us. But I think like all the nerfs, like with Nitro, crash pads coming in before upper bracket and all that stuff, I think cash cups were therefore a big help this season. And I think it's like probably one of the best things you can do. Like if you take cash cups actually serious, like I think it's actually a matter that like because it gives you confidence, you know. Like it's like you go in the same confidence sometimes in grants with that you just go in cash cups. Like at least that's what we did. Probably some other tier ones do that as well. So I just think it's like definitely a big thing with cash cups.
Yeah, for sure. And you touched on it a little bit, and I wanted to ask, because a lot of people don't really know about Raz as a coach. How much of an impact do you think Razru had this season on your performance? Because obviously you see on Twitter people joking with him and everything, but how big of an impact was he this season for you?
He was probably the biggest impact this whole season, to be honest, because Raz actually like I mean, he's coaching other teams as well, but every time he had like free time, he always like asked us, "Yo, you guys want to go and call? What we do that and look at that and that, like what you can do better." And to be honest, I think without Raz, we wouldn't have won this grants. Like probably like 80% of our performance was based off Raz because he was actually just helping us a lot this season. And I mean, yeah, he just hits the playstyle as well.
It's interesting, right? Because obviously, I think a lot of people saw you guys this season and went, you know, 2 crazy fighters, like, you know, obviously the whole Peterbot Pollo of EU comparisons and all that. And Raz himself made a joke about that. You know, did that play on your mind much of like, okay, like this is who like we are as a team? Like, did you learn much from them, or did you take anything from them? Like, what was the sort of like, was there even any pressure of people making that comparison, you know, to you to sort of deliver on that standard?
Well, to be honest, there wasn't really any pressure set because, well, I mean, NA and EU, that's 2 whole different regions, and it's like I think there's like Peterbot and Pollo, like there's only like one team that can beat them, you know, like it's just them, you know, it's like Peterbot and Pollo, then it's just me and Flickzy, you know. I mean, there's always like I think they're comparing was definitely like, I think it gave me more of a confidence boost, to be honest, because like people were like thinking, oh yeah, this guy is actually like good at the game and stuff like that. But I don't think it like put any pressure on us. I mean, I didn't really like look at any like tier lists as well this whole season. Like the only stuff I actually looked at was like the podcast from like you guys and stuff, because that was actually the only interesting thing. So
there you go. You win
yeah.
FNCS if you listen to the
There you
podcast.
go.
Boom. No more.
Yeah,
Put it on
exactly.
TikTok. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Vic0 basically confirming that if you listen to the FNtasia podcast, you will win an FNCS.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
Spot on. All right. Everyone's been talking about it, so I'm sure you've had people ask you about this in some capacity. We were literally just talking about this. You played with Pink before. Pink's been reacting to a bunch of your success this season, and I feel like he's been like trolling a bit just to make fun of it, you know. But
Yeah.
talk to us about like playing with Pink, how much you feel like that's impacted you now in terms of getting your first FNCS win, and like, you know, what role has he played in your development as a player?
Well, playing with Pink was probably one of the best decisions I could have made, because I mean, I got into like such a bigger friend group of tier ones with like Queasy, Venner, and all them that were coached by Bloodex, and like just like getting a different perspective from the game was like, I think it had a big impact for me, like as a player in general, because I just don't see the game like just in fighting anymore, you know. Like I see the game as well like from an IGL side as well now, and it's like having Bloodex and Pink for like 11 months, almost the whole year as a whole like team. I think like it definitely helps, because like you learn so much stuff that you wouldn't normally like learn in like 11 months, I would say.
Yeah.
And just because of that, I think like it actually had a pretty good impact. Like if I compare myself now with like my prime before playing with Pink, I think now after playing with Pink, it was just 10 times better, to be honest.
Have you spoken to him since you won?
I've wrote a few DMs with him, but not actually like wasn't in a call with him yet.
Okay.
But I think
he congratulated you and everything.
Yeah, he congratulated me.
Good.
I mean, speaking of Pink, then, like, what does Flickzy offer you now as a duo? Like, can you talk about how Flickzy is different and how that like sort of enables you to win an FNCS now all of a sudden?
I mean, Flix's way of thinking in the game is like so much different from people that I've played with now. Like he thinks more of like, he has more of like a aggressive idealing style, you know. Like even when we're cap, he still says, yeah, if you can go for that kill, just do it, you know. Like kill point is kill point, and like he sees those eliminations, even if we're cap, he sees that as a refresh in some certain way, because like the mats that we get from those kills sometimes, because we have forecast, you know, we can sometimes just use them to pre-top in different zones. Then I mean, we just went into every first moving with like cap, so it was basically like impossible that we do bad unless we just do dumb stuff. But yeah.
Then I just want to quickly ask about, you know, it's been a big topic this season and the whole year, Reckless Railways, right? You know, obviously Flickzy and Janice had 2 bad FNCSs from there. What changed this season from the other 2 seasons when it comes to Reckless?
Well, I'd say what changed this season was probably like the rotation items that got in now. A lot of people like Levin and Boo and all them, they didn't see like Reckless as a good spot, even you, Harry. But like when you actually play the spot, it's like you're playing such a different game. It felt like I had like such an advantage over everyone, because like we had so much loot. We just had to loot like 3 buildings or like 4 buildings of Reckless, and we were had basically the best loot in the game. You know, like we ran around in Reckless with like 6 colas sometimes and like everything. And even like once you have like golden drones as well, like you just get everything. You know, and like the loot you get there is like you have so much spare loot that you can just like you can run around. I could have ran like in grants. I could have ran completely to the top right and keyed like all the teams up there, and I still wouldn't have lost anything, because I had so much loot spare and Reckless that it wouldn't have even mattered. Like also like you get so much mats from Reckless. It's like so broken, and like with the possibility of all the floor spawns and chest spawns and all that, there's no way you just don't get a good AR in the game. You know, like I think in grants we had like 7 or 8 games where we just always got like either a purple enforcer with like the like thermal scope on it, vertical foregrip, and less recoil, I think, muscle break. Or we just got a gold DMR with perfect stats. So, and I mean, you guys saw probably the damage that from Kinch. We had like almost like 30k damage as a duo.
Yeah, you guys had some damage.
So basically, I have to split it in Noble in like 4 different spots. Is what you're saying?
No, please.
Yeah, 3 buildings.
Too much. I mean, 4 extra
no.
colas. I mean, you gotta come on.
Yeah,
Too
that's
much.
just. I mean, that's from the whole spots.
Okay,
From one side, we got like enough loot, you know.
Okay.
This
The other
guy-
side was just.
I'll think about it.
He
Please
made
don't split the
sure
spot.
instantly after day 1 to be like, or no, it was after day 2 maybe. He made sure to instantly message me and be like, I told you Reckless is the god spot. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that.
Give me a
that.
break, man. Come on.
But it's not the loot, it's the surge. Like that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, the search was pretty easy to be honest, because like we had like this season, like everyone was like, yeah, we have to do a search base, you know, because like everyone was so like they were so focused on the Cacti that they didn't even like evolve a playstyle around like normal healings, you know, like no one else that like even Trulex and like Queez and all them, even they like the only plan they had the whole grants was Cacti, you know, that they prepared for it the whole season, and one day after like the day where Cacti were gone, no one was prepared for it. So like our playstyle was just like it didn't really change, and I mean the only thing we basically did like we looked at like everyone's like how they're losing and all that. And like how like when we can like maybe catch them off guard and like get like some tags on them, maybe in them, like take them out the game, you know. So we always had like timings on people, and I mean it worked out, you know. Like some games we had like 2k search, some games we had like 3k. Like we never had like any search problems because of it. So I think Reckless this season, like search wise as well, was pretty like good. I'm not gonna lie, because like everyone, like the only teams that actually like didn't want any search from us or didn't want to trade was the split below us, and that was Gutenberg and Forsen this season. That just instantly ran away and WQ the team.
Yeah, they ran. It's funny. I'd open the map to like when I was Vodrivian. I'd open the map. I'm like, where the hell is that team? Like, where are they gone? It's like they've just completely
Yeah, I mean,
pissed off. Yeah.
yeah, that was like, but I mean, it worked out some way because, like, with the boats being added in as well, that just like was perfect for us because like Artskill and Shakers, there was no way they could ever counter when they cannoned up, you know. So we just like we looked at the timing when they cannoned up in the game, and we set like a timer. Like every game, like our spawn, we set like a timer to loot like 2 minutes and then run up to Shakers and Artskill. And like 30 seconds before they cannoned up, we like had a good position and just waited for them. And I mean, we always got like 200 damage off it, like 250. And then after that, we just had like we got forecast, and then like a lot of teams rotate into us, like from like north side of the map.
Yeah, it's interesting because I spoke to a lot of pros about what they thought you guys would do of going into Grands. And I think like a lot of pros didn't expect you to have setups like that for like early game, and I'll be honest, I remember VOD reviewing some of your cash cup performances, and I'm like, this is not gonna work in Grands. Like you're running around with bloody SMGs and you're like using all your mats to fight one team, and I'm like, this is just not gonna happen. And obviously, again, in Grands, it was a lot more polished, it was a lot more clean. Let's talk about moving forward now then, because obviously Grands was spectacular and you proved a lot of people wrong, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Qualify for Globals now, you know, FNtasia champion in EU. What's sort of like next? Like, have you started thinking towards Globals? Like, are you now going to be Conan, and Ritual? Like, have you thought much about that? Or have you like, well, what's the like mentality like now moving forward for you?
Well, moving forward, there's still some cash of the season, so we definitely want to win those, you know, to get like a new EU record, because there's still money to be made this season, you know.
True.
I can make
money,
almost 100.
maybe. Yeah,
I can make almost 100k just off this season, you know. That would be nice.
Right.
Would be a good replacement of last season.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I mean, going towards globals, we're definitely gonna con Read and Ritual, because looking at their like how they drop, and like just looking at them generally, I don't think they're like a good team out spawn. They're like a good fighting team, but like when it comes to far drops, like I just don't think they're like good. And I mean that's like the strength of me and Flickzy, you know. Like I've always been in like spots where I always had like a lot of far drops, and Flickzy as well. So like we're pretty used to it. And coming to close drops, I mean it's just whoever marks perfectly and like has the perfect bust timing just wins our spawn, you know. But like in Reckless, I feel like there's like a lot of secrets to Reckless that I obviously don't want to say here, because wouldn't be good if they know that, or any other person would know that, because then I might have some trouble.
Or I mean, you've just given them a month to practice their far drops, mate. So
I mean, they can try. You know, I'm prepared. I'm putting in my time. You know, I'm putting in my work. Like I'm playing every day. You know, I'm grinding the game still. There's like no, I don't have time to stop right now. You know, like I can stop after globals once I've done good. Then I can chill a bit. You know.
Read and ritual or shit. Vic0 2024.
Exactly.
We need EU to win at something at this point. Like I think, we you are our saving grace at this point.
I mean, Swizzy and Vanya, they're still like they're a good team as well.
Yeah,
like, I think like that teams that qualified this season, like the last 3 seasons, we have a lot of good teams going into Texas.
Yeah.
So I think there's a huge possibility that we might win, but there's still a chance that maybe like someone from an A just takes it home again. But we'll see.
For sure.
Whoever has the best luck wins.
That is how it goes a lot of the time in this. Well, thank you very much. If there's any more questions, guys, anyone else have anything they want to?
No, I think that was pretty much it. I think, it was great to talk to you, especially like on a sort of like when you're talking about like the way you play. It was very interesting because we all had our own sort of issues with either your play style or reckless or whatever, right? And you proved everyone wrong this season, so congratulations.
I had one small question, and is if reckless gets deleted, because obviously it's in a new season, right, in 39 days from now, and there's a good new spot, and Peterbot and Pollo are landing there. Are you landing on Peterbot and Pollo, or are you picking something else? Because that's the number one thing for me is like, I don't think anyone's going to call Peterbot and Pollo. I don't think there's many teams in EU that want to do it, except for Malibu and Mustache, maybe. But are you the savior there, or
I think if we just if the spot's like Crazy and Flickzy says let's land there and Wes as well, like I think we're just gonna con them. Like I don't really care about it, you know. Like I think it's just like whoever has the better preparations and puts in more work, that team's just gonna win, you know. It also
you got the same coach, mate. It's like,
you got
the same
Hey, we have the same coach, but still, there's like a huge difference, you know. Like it's you and NNA, you know. Like there's difference. Like,
True.
Of course, Wes is not gonna help us both, you know. We're like saying like, oh yeah, this team's gonna do that.
That's what I'm saying.
That, you know, like he's not gonna pick a favorite, and that's like he's gonna help us both out genuinely, but he's not gonna tell us what Peter and Pollo would do, or he's not gonna tell Peter Pollo what we're gonna do, you know. Like he's of course not gonna say that because he wants both of us to do good.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I mean, I don't think that if Reckless actually gets deleted, I mean, I'll just see where I landed. But I'm probably not gonna land like the best POI like Malibuka did this season, or like Swizzy Vanya did this season, you know, because I don't think it's worth it. Because in general, like those spots are always gonna be overcon, you know, like we've always seen that, like every season, like even at like Copenhagen, like all the good spots that had like the best loot in the game were like always overcon. So
for sure,
I just don't think it's worth it. Like I'm probably gonna find like some POI that's still gonna have like really good loot, like good mats as well, and I'm just gonna land there probably and like con one team that's not good at the game, or like maybe even be uncon. If I'm uncon, of course, then
I mean, you conned Akon and Cord last land, right? So
yeah.
I mean, not afraid of anyone.
No.
I got 10th and they got 8th, so I could have top 3'd in that land as well.
True. Hey.
Oh, that haunts me still though.
First I was nightmare about it. Well, you can make up for it in about a month's time. So
exactly.
You know, it's all good. Thank you very much for joining us, Vic0. Appreciate you, brother.
No
Take
worries.
care and good luck with the streaming. Be sure to check out his streams, guys. He's been streaming a lot more, and the numbers are flying up since then.
The numbers are flying.
He's running ads.
You better be running them ads. Peace out, Vic0. Thank you very much, brother.
Peace out. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a nice guy. What a lovely kid. Well deserved.
What a guy.
Win, right? Well deserved. Well, I don't know, for all of you listeners, I know we've got a bunch of new people who watch the show now from last season. So for the people who weren't here last season, after grand finals, we did some awards. We gave out awards to players. The main grand finals based award was the FNtasia EU NNA finals MVP. We asked a bunch of people who are involved in the show, people who have been guests on the show before, etc., to vote, give like their top 3 shortlist, and then based off of everybody's first, second, third place votes, you add them up. Whoever has the most first place votes wins the award. I'm an idiot and forgot to give it to him while we were literally just talking to him 5 seconds ago. But the FNtasia EU Finals MVP was Vic0. No surprises there. Woo, Vic0, congrats, bro. Should have been giving you this congrats when you were literally here. But for the people wondering, we obviously record this on Tuesdays. It comes out on Wednesdays. the second Vic0 left the call, he started the stream. Like, I've never seen someone start a stream quicker than this. So we couldn't get him back in here for a second to give him the award. But he won EU Finals MVP. No surprises there. We'll talk about NA Finals MVP when we get to NA. We don't really have to talk about him getting a Finals MVP. It's obvious.
Kind of obvious.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. I will say, though, Flickzy came a close second in the voting, understandably as well, because again, damage stats were unreal, IGL and unreal, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, Vic0 was the Finals MVP, broke their limb record, won FNCS. What more is there to say? Congrats.
Yeah, crazy player, crazy player.
I'm curious who else people put in the list, because I was struggling for like the third person. I wasn't sure.
So most people, as the third person, had Teeny and Chap.
Okay.
It was either Teeny or Chap, I should say, yeah. I'm trying to think if there was anybody else somebody said. Somebody did say CZB. Somebody did say CZB. Somebody
That's got to be
Kinch
Kinch or something.
Somebody
Mr.
said
Bob
CZB,
Trait himself. He is. I love to see. We'll get talking about CZB and Nathan in a bit, but I'm ready for it.
Somebody said CZB. Somebody said Nathan as well. So, I will say actually, and I was ordered. I was demanded by you. It's funny. Boop said probably Kinch, right? Kinch did say Nathan. He gave Nathan his third place vote.
Asterisk.
And he specifically said, please remind Boot that he was trying to pick Dexy over Nathan last week. So,
we've got to get Kinch back on.
Hey, man,
for round 2.
A clock is right twice a day when it comes to CZB and Nathan. You know, like who would have thought? Who would have thought? It wasn't looking rough day 1, by the way. Like it wasn't that great, and then day 2 they went crazy. So fair play.
Well, we are going to talk about them because I want us to just quickly highlight all of the new players who are now qualified to global championships from EU. And obviously, the first team to do that was obviously Vic0 and Flickzy. The rest of the teams in the top 5 were all the teams from last season who qualified for globals, which was pretty funny in many ways.
Surprisingly, yeah.
In many cases, yeah, some surprises, obviously, with the recent, especially, I'd say. But 6th place was CZB and Nathan. They now qualified to globals. 7th place, Ping and Wox, now qualified to globals. Janice and Pixie. Janice finally securing his spot. Maybe still would consider Grand's a bit of a disappointment because he was 2nd going into day 2 and they looked really good, but it kind of slipped out of their hands a bit. Sky and Scroll, a big surprise of a team that qualified to the global championships, but what a year it's been for them, right? Turtle and Cheeps, my goat Cheeps, the maths and PE teacher, making it to the global championships. Prism and Casper in 11th also qualified. Trulex and Chicho finally securing the spot. It was a close one.
Well.
That was close.
Yeah.
That was the one team that got screwed so hard by the plant changes, and like you saw like the leaderboard, they were crawling up slowly, and then they made it. And I'm very happy because like that would have been the saddest thing for them to not be in there.
Yeah, it would have been heartbreaking. Hattie and Kovacs also closed out a spot in 13th. And then the final team to qualify for the global championships was Giras and Chari in 14th.
It's actually flipped around now. So the tiebreaker was bugged apparently in the leaderboards. So it's now it's Giras in 13th now, and then Kovacs and Huddy in 14th, which is an interesting one because that might also change because there's some bugged point stuff going on, which
Ellen for Nyan.
Yeah, they're missing points apparently.
Okay, so we will see. We'll update you guys as that changes, but if that changes. But those are all the teams that qualified. Any big surprises there? Any people you'd say you didn't expect to see? I think like when you look at CZB Nathan, Janice Pixie, Trulex Chicha, those ones were probably people. Ping and Wox definitely as well. I think we're a team that many people expected to qual for globals. We did, at least based off of like our brackets and the conversations we had. I'd say Sky and Scroll was a big surprise for me.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like you had to, for a team to qual to globals from the islands north of the map, probably the hardest spot in a finals lobby to play. You're so far away, it takes so long to loot. Like that is to me one of the most impressive performances this grand finals because you could put a lot of top teams there and they're not doing a lot from it. You know, you have to be an aggressive team. You have to be willing to take fights because you're too far away to get any surge in the traditional fashion. So it's crazy for them. And I've got to. I wanted to touch on it, and we touched on it a little bit. CZB and Nathan, like, man, it's good to have a UK duo finally, like a good UK duo. They're 1 point off.
The UK wins. Something.
Yeah, like 1 point off top 5. Like, I think for a lot of us that we had seen this year and be like, I think we all sort of said it's like they did well in Duo Cash Cups. We need the Grands performance. We need that performance which sets them from they're Cash Cup warriors to they are the real deal. They are a real team who actually have serious potential, and being 1 point off top 5, having serious good games. And I think the most impressive thing for me, right, is, you know, these are players who, well, Nathan, for example, he's the IGL of the duo. If you remember when Nathan used to play with Archie, like, he was just a quiet kid who didn't really used to say much, and he's now developed into a top IGL on this region who's able to get a 6th place in the EU Grand Finals. I think that's an incredible achievement.
I mean, it's the mental fortitude of playing with Archie, I think, that really got him there, like, realistically. You know, like, once you've gone through that for a season, then you can tackle anything. You can make it to globals. I think the storylines are very interesting in EU because, like, the people that actually qualify, the individuals, is crazy, right? We have a 22-year-old math teacher in Cheaps who qualified global championships. We have a player who, at the start of this year, was playing on a shitty laptop and then got earnings, made his first grand finals playing on a laptop, bought himself a nice new PC, and then made it now into global championships in Prism. And then you got, you know, Nathan, who used to play with Archie, now making it as well. You know, like, there's a lot of storylines in here of the unlikely or the unusual suspects who are doing it. Like, also Sky and Scroll, you know, like, I mean, I think they're 15 now, but they were 14, like a few weeks ago. Before this, like, 2 14-year-old kids, 15-year-old kids, super, super young, undeveloped, and then all of a sudden making it. One of these guys is playing on the fucking scroll wheel, man. Like, how we got the weird bunch of players making it to EU, but it's showing that, like, you know, you could be from nowhere at the start of a year to making it to the biggest tournament by just, you know, pure perseverance and hard work. And these guys have been working hard. They've been taking tournaments seriously. If you follow EU at all, you've been seeing their names on the leaderboard slowly creeping up. Yeah. And honestly, I'd say, you know, looking at the other teams that didn't qualify, these are the guys that deserve it, in my opinion.
It's interesting, right? Because outside of those teams that have qualified for globals, big congrats to them. There were also a bunch of performances and people who didn't make that globals threshold, or at least that top sort of 15 threshold, that were pretty interesting, and some surprises in there as well. Maybe not a surprise, but an interesting one's obviously like Q&DX and Phantom, the Middle Eastern team that moved over to EU to try and qualify. Harry, I know one of your teams was contesting them all weekend, so I'm sure you'll have some things to say there. But
Harry.
If they had qualified, I was going into hiding. It was just I had to go into hiding. That the team that was contesting them, I was coaching. But no, that, like, I generally think.
Sorry, what I was going to say about them is, like, Q&DX and Phantom at one point on day 2 were in the qualifying spots. Like, they were very close. Like, they were very close to making it to globals. They obviously, you know, crash out, and now they won't be competing at the global championships. Which, again, would be a big sort of shocker for them.
No, for sure. And I think there's so many interesting storylines when it comes to Q&DX and Phantom, right? You know, a team, both of them, who throughout this whole year hasn't really had that good placements on Middle East, right? You know, the highest was, I think it was Phantom who placed like 8th one of the FNCSs, and I think Q&DX played middle of the pack for all of the rest. Come to EU, contest an EU team, and then nearly qualify to globals. I think this shows for a lot of people, right? If you're a Middle East team, and I think for a lot of reasons, well, and you're not close to qualifying to globals, right? Because you have to win an FNCS or basically come second, right, to qualify to globals. It's like, why not move to another region which has more spots or even more chance to qualify to grand finals? Because you're going to make more money. You're going to become a better player from the practice, and you're just going to develop yourself so much further, right? And it's great to hear as well, Phantom staying on EU. Right, and I think that is a great thing for going forward.
Looking for duo.
He's looking for a duo, Q&DX is going back, and obviously I spent a lot of time watching them, obviously, with my team contesting them, right? I think Phantom is a seriously good player. You watch a team and you can very clearly see that Phantom was, in my opinion, the better player off spawn. I think it was the better player when it came to, like, the majority of the game as well. I think he is a seriously good player, and he can make multiple grand finals on EU, and I think there's going to be a load of these players in other regions who I feel like, why don't you just move? You know, we've had Swizzy already move from Asia to EU, and obviously he had the story he's had already now. And you have Phantom and Q&DX who have moved to EU and get a really good placement as well, nearly gone to global. So if you're a lower region player, move to a bigger region, see what happens. You know, take the risk. At the end of the day, esports careers aren't that long. And if you're in someone like OC, Asia, Brazil, Middle East, right, it's so hard to be like a pro on these regions.
I like how you mentioned Swizzy, because I feel like Phantom is that type of Swizzy player. Like, this guy is insane. Like he drops like 30 kills in solo Cash Cup finals, which obviously isn't like the best reference for like skill level, but like it shows the individual
it's decent
talent.
Reference.
Yeah,
I actually think it's like
how
there's not
many pros
many
can you name that
players.
can do it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's not.
Like, how many people can actually do that? And I mean, you know who can do that? Swizzy and Vanya. Like, we've seen them drop 30 bombs in solo Cash Cups.
Vic0 can.
Yeah, Vic0 can, Flickzy can, Marius, you know? These are all very, very talented players. And I think Phantom is one of those guys who I think can evolve past his own region, potentially, and the shell of being a Middle East player. And, you know, I saw a lot of people tweeting out, like, you know, I gotta find an underrated GOAT. Like, I think, like, you put a decent, good tier 2 or tier 1 player in EU with Phantom, I think he can make magic happen. I'm very much looking forward to seeing his progression in EU. Hopefully he does get the respect that, you know, he's given, or that he deserves, sorry, because, you know, it's sometimes very hard as an external player to do that. And also, you know, you don't have the benefit like Swizzy and Vanya who are like Russian speaking, right? To find someone that's like-minded as you. Like, I don't think there's many Arabic speaking players in EU like that. So I really hope he does find someone because, you know, he's good and he's hardworking. He's played every single scrim session this season. So I think he wants it for sure.
Of course, along the names of people who I guess weren't sort of high up in the leaderboards that were big sort of disappointments, the next one down the list would be Queasy Thomas, 35th place for them this grand finals. Another team that you'd say was probably, you know, highly affected by the Slurp Cacti change. What did we make of Queasy? I don't know if you guys got around to watching much of their games. We didn't see them much on the broadcast. But yeah, what did you guys make of Queasy and Thomas 35th?
Yeah, so I on stream today, I was going through some of the teams because in preparation, like some of the teams who didn't perform, right? You know, Camiseti, Queasy Thomas, you know, these types of teams, right? And to me, it was weird. Like I didn't really. I watched a couple of their games, and especially on day 2. One of their games was obviously game 1 of day 2 where they didn't get DMRs, right? And they're struggling to get DMRs on. That was the name of the game, right? If you get a DMR, the game's so much easier. You can play long range surge. You're able to do a lot, right? But the problem is they were saying they're struggling to get DMRs. But even when they were getting DMRs, they were more willing to go and fight teams for surge, trying to be a little bit more aggressive for surge and do these sort of things, right? And I don't know if that's their playstyle. And especially on day 2, there was a game, and it drove me insane watching it. It was like they're like 600 above surge in 5th zone. They're chilling, rotating, and they're holding a team on edge. And literally, Queasy's in like a little base getting surge, and Thomas just crash pads as a solo onto them. Like literally, like Queasy is nowhere near. Thomas crash pads. I don't know if it's miscommunication or whatever, right? And that team has ended up being Teeny and Chap. So you can guess what happens after that when Thomas is crash padding a solo onto them, and it's like, I don't know. It felt so weird watching them. It was like, I think Queasy said a lot himself. Like they had a good game plan. They chose their landing spot based on what the meta they thought was going to happen, and the meta changes one day before, and the way you've prepared and planned your landing spot for the whole season for it to change, it's like, well, as Vic0 said as well, it's like they didn't have a plan B, so you only have 24 hours to prepare. It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah. So I didn't see a lot of Queasy in game, but I did see a lot of Queasy in my chat the whole weekend, and it was basically like, no fucking DMR this game, Boop. You know, this fucking job spot sucks. How am I leaving with minis and big pots? What the fuck is CZB and Nathan doing? Fuck these kids. I might land on them day 2. Like, it was a lot of that happening. And honestly, Queasy Thomas, I think a lot of people are very quick to put in like, oh my god, is Queasy washed? Is Thomas HD washed? He just turned 22 years old or whatever. Like, it's over for him. Like, come on. Like, at the end of the day, these are players, and if you know Queasy and Thomas well, you know these are players that are motivated by accolade and potential for things in the future. Yeah. This FNCS for them, with everything changing and them already being qualified to globals, as much as I hate saying that people don't try, I think this is definitely a case of like, they really just didn't give a shit, you know? Like, Thomas has ESL to look on. Queasy's been going out to like festivals and stuff. I think now in the last 30 days going to globals, I think the real grind for them is going to start. But like, I really don't think they cared enough to actively do much this season into trying to win it. The passion was lost for this one specifically, but I am very excited to see them in globals because, you know, they're still going to be contenders. You can't count them out.
Yeah, sure. I think I've made similar comments to you in the past of like, you know when you hate saying the team's not trying. I do feel like they probably are like the only team in the world that can actually like validly use that excuse this season of like, we're not really trying. There's like much more for us like elsewhere, you know? Like I feel like everyone else is like you can see where there'd be motivation to do something. And I know some people will be like, yeah, but Thomas still wants to win an online FNCS. As much as I'm sure that is true, I also would not be surprised if he's kind of like mentally checked out of it.
After
where
the
it's
second,
like, do you know what I mean? It's like after a couple seconds, you know, like I wouldn't be surprised if he's a bit mentally checked out, where it's more like if the season comes where like things are just perfect, I'm at the best spot, not getting condos and shit, like I'm sure then it'd be like there's been more motivation to just win it. But like unless things I feel like walk into his path of the online FNCS, I wouldn't be surprised if he's just not as checked in for those. Obviously if you know Queasy, you know Queasy, you know what Moses say there. To be fair to them, like I think they did what they did last season, where like I think Queasy had tried to cook up a strat for Grand, right? They didn't try really the whole of Grand, but then I think leading up to Grand, like he had cooked something up, and you know they were going quickly to that one cactus and all of that.
Yeah.
I think it is just a case of Queasy had done his cooking for the season, right?
Yeah.
He got fucked by, you know, the change
Epic cooked him,
Epic cooked him, and then it's like, you know, you're sort of like there wasn't enough time, I think, for him to like really recook something up for them. Like you said, Boop, come globals, I'm sure they will cook something up, and they will be a contender. Like they are not a team that I'm putting on my question mark list or my wash list. I will still say I still expect them to do better. So this isn't like this isn't an excuse of like
it's not an excuse for a 35th from Queasy.
They should be like getting 25th, 20th without trying, in my opinion.
Yeah, like it's not an excuse for this performance. This is honestly just a bad performance, and they might have their excuses for that, but like that's just the reality. But the bigger implications of this long term, I'm not worried about them.
No, for sure.
Who I am worried about though, Seti and Cammy came 48th in a grand finals in EU. What universe are we living in right now? What stuff is happening right now? Like, what is happening?
Just don't watch their games. It is some of the worst I have ever seen from Cammy and Seti. Like whether it's their fighting, whether it's like the way they're planning for Surge, where like there are some games, right? Like there was a game, I think it was literally the same game 1, day 2, and they get the coin. They got Mersat and Malibuka's rig coin after first zone. You're like, this is it, the comeback. We've seen Andalex and Seitu do it. We've seen Maris and Sangil do it.
That's literally what I said too.
Yeah, it's the comeback.
The coin, yes.
Before you finish what you're saying, when I saw this, before we get into that game, on the desk, Frankie literally asked me, do you think we're going to see the comeback from Seti and Cammy? And I was like, no. Like, deadpan, I was like, no. Then when I see them get the coin in game, I was shitting it. I was like, oh my god, I'm about to get cooked so bad now. And then continue.
Yeah, so literally that game, right? And then they sit around the edge, they get enough surge. You're like, right, this is it. Play either insta-rotate center with the rings, you know, you've got all the surge in the world, or play a little bit of Storm, a little bit harder with the coin, but play a bit of Storm, it's fine. They go on edge zone. Cammy gets double headshot with a DMR, and there goes the game. And there it is, all done and dusted. It's like, to be honest, it's a mistake, right? And this is kind of, sometimes you have these tournaments where you make a mistake, but it gets punished so far further than you should get punished for, right? Cammy misses a team, and he gets double DMR'd whilst jumping by one player. It's not like he got dunked 3-2. He's just got double DMR by one player whilst jumping. That is quite unfortunate. Sometimes it's double body, they miss one shot, you know? So it's like, sometimes you just have those tournaments where it's just like, you're getting punished more than the mistake deserves. But my god, it was just not great. It got to the point on day 2, you could see like their landing windmill. They're just don't want to say it, but it didn't look like they were trying to win more than they were trying to make sure the other team they were contested I didn't win. So
well, yeah, when Akira and YZY didn't qualify for globals, you know, Cammy instantly tweeted like, "This feels better than doing well." So I think that lets you know where their heads were at. Look. They were one of the teams most heavily affected by the Cacti change, you'd say, when you look at how they've been playing all season. As someone who, like, knows the inside of, like, you know, watching Cammy scrim a bunch and playing with Yomzo and, like, you know, some of the Blood X strategies, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think they're one of the teams most heavily screwed by this season's Cacti change. With that being said, though, the bigger problem was the off-spawn. The bigger problem was the off-spawn being contested. We've always wondered what happens when a good team cons Cammy and Seti off spawn consistently over 12 games. We finally got our answer, and it is not looking pretty.
It's 48th.
The first thing that came to mind with me, I like from talking to them beforehand, I knew they were kind of already like mentally boomed about being condo spawn. But like the first thing that came to mind with me when I started seeing things were going bad is like, is their globals just cooked now? Because why would you not just land on Cami and Seti now? Like before, the only times they've been con obviously were like the whole like Queasy Venom thing in the last game. They won that, right? The most important off-spawn fight of all time. They won. Cool, nice. They were conned by Daedus and Stain last year at Globals. They beat those guys, but even in a couple games, it was a bit shaky, right? But like they still won against like a lower level Asian team. Cool. Now though, if you are anybody good off spawn, even if you're not anybody good off spawn, why would you not look at Cami and City and go, if we got to con someone, why don't we con them? And I think that is the worst possible scenario that they could have had come, you know, the end of this grand finals.
Yeah, it's a look, I don't want to group them all into one, but the Polish teams this grands did not do well off spawn. And it doesn't we'll get to NA in a bit, but you get yeah, I mean, Cami and Seti, right? That, as you said, it's always been the rumor. It's like they're not a good team off spawn. Why doesn't someone just contest them? I was surprised last season they didn't get contested, right? Because they didn't call globals on the first FNCS, right? Like now they actually need to quote, you know, contest them, you know, make them feel a little bit, you know, make it feel a little bit shaky for them. But I mean, it's fair enough to YZY and Akira, right? Like they bit the bullet, they went for it, and they got a placement probably way better than they expected. I think 21st in the grand finals is more than they would have got if they went on con, right? And probably there's this feeling that now for Cami and Seti, for globals, as you said, it's like, why wouldn't you contest? If you're a team, right? Because all these teams in this globals qualified from probably god spots. They had to qualify from good spots. So they're all going to be contesting each other anyway on the original map. And then some are going to have to take worse spots. Why wouldn't you just, instead of taking a worse spot, contest one of what looks like one of the weaker teams off spawn from EU? It just seems like a more logical decision.
I mean, there's the issue is like, we knew this was coming, right? Like, I mean, we always made fun of Cam and said, "Oh my god, they got a 3-kill win. It's got to be a world record." You know, like they are always in history of the team that just doesn't get kills, right? And now finally someone's challenged them, and like the facade is gone. Like their biggest weakness is now completely exposed. Like they're a good team, but they're not good at fighting, and that goes throughout the whole game. And yeah, I think. I am a betting man sometimes, but if I was a betting man in the saying, I would say I think Cam and Seti, it's done for them. Like there's no world where I see Cam and Seti after global staying together. This duo's cooked. I think they've had their ups. Like the mom and dad are going through a divorce. It's over. You know.
Yeah, mum and dad are fighting. Seti is putting in not the best performance I've seen from Seti. You know, last Grands we talked about, I felt like Cammy was virtually sometimes he was actually playing solo for games.
He was.
You know, he literally was playing solo, but like in some games, and also solo clutching a lot of end games as well, right? And then this season where it looks like, I mean, I don't think Seti really was playing much practice. Seti wasn't really looking like his true form, right? And you know, and now they have problems off spawn. It's like. Now, if they go into the next online FNCS after Globals, even if they're not contested at Globals and it goes well, next FNCS online, they're contested. It's guaranteed without fail. Someone is a top team, a tier 2 or tier 1 is going to go, I'm just going to con Cami. I'm just going to con Cami and Seti because it's like, you know, whatever landing spot they pick, it's a good final spot because that's what they prepare for. They have to pick, they want to have the best final landing spot. So if you're a tier 2, tier 1, or even tier 3 team, like who just makes grand finals, like Akira and YZY, con them, copy them.
You already see the mentality, right? Like we just talked to Vic, and Vic said, "Yeah, me and Flickzy, we're still gonna play every single duo cash cup. We're gonna win money. You know, Globals in 39 days." Cammy just tweeted like a few hours ago, "Need duo for eval cup." You know, like, I feel like they're checked out. Like, I obviously maybe said he's doing something. You know, I'm maybe like guessing at here, but like if I had to guess, like. It's going to be one of those things like 2 weeks before, maybe they start scrimming, maybe they start grinding again, but the motivation just isn't there anymore for this duo, I think. And it's sad. It's sad to see, in my opinion. It hurts. It's like, I love that duo. That duo was so good.
It was a guaranteed area. You enjoy watching them play because you knew they had some really good strategies. You knew they had some really good ideas that they were going to come into grand finals with. And now we're at a point where it just doesn't feel like they're really that prepared. And obviously the meta changed and everything like that, but it doesn't feel like they're the same Cami and Seti as they once were.
Yeah, no, that feeling definitely has gone. Hopefully, if you know Globals is their last dance, hopefully it gets to be something special. But yeah, I'd retweet a lot of the things you guys were saying. We'll have a deeper conversation about Cammy and Say, I think, before Globals. There'll be a lot to say then. When it comes to them, obviously, yeah, they came 48th, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that. Honestly, that was really rough. Let's get into NA. But before we get into NA, actually, let's do the top 5 game. I know Reese isn't here, but I think it's time that we run some more of the top 5 game. For the people who don't know, if this is your first time watching, you don't know what the top 5 game is, I'm gonna ask the lads a question. They're gonna give their answer, their top 5 to the question, and then we're gonna see who's right, who's wrong. Feel free to play along at home. If you're watching this, play along and give your answer as well. Are you guys ready? You guys got the code in? I think Quartz is giving you guys the code. Do you have the
I'm getting in now.
I'm in now.
I can see both of you in. Okay, so the question this week for the top 5 game is: which 5 players had the highest damage dealt in the EU and NA Grand Finals?
Okay.
Which 5 players had the highest damage dealt? You have not long to put your answers in. Get your answers in.
So is this combined? Like both?
No,
like, if we have to put them all
not duo.
into...
So it's individual players.
Like, so like, I'm saying, like, if Vic0 and like someone else like were tied, like it would be on the same list, right? Like we're not doing separate EU and NA.
No, it's combined EU and NA. Okay. Like it's just the 5 from EU and NA.
Yeah, got it.
I've got 4. I need one more. I need to think of one.
Get your answers in. Be sure to play along at home as well. Don't cheat though and like put your answers after. Like write your answers now if you're watching at home, and put them in the comment section below, and then check afterwards if your answers were right. I'm gonna have to put you on the clock here.
All right, done.
Okay, Boop locked in first. Boop, what was your top 5?
So my top 5 was obviously Big Pete at the top, obviously because he has the most broken A on the game. Vic0 in second, Flickzy in third, Vic0 fourth, and then Cold in 5th.
Oh, we had nearly the same list. There's one difference. I have a slightly different order, but yeah.
Okay, what is your top 5 then, Harry?
So I have Vic0 in first, Peterbot second, Flickzy third, Vic0 fourth, and Chap in 5th. I was going between Chap and potentially I don't think I was gonna go Cold. I don't think it was in my mind, but I'm pretty sure it was Chap or Teeny I was gonna go for.
Okay,
Cold was con, so that's why I thought he could break into the top 5 with that.
True.
I like where both of you were thinking with both your lists, but we're gonna reveal the actual top 5 now. We're gonna reveal the actual top 5. In 5th place was Bolts in 5th place. Bolts in 5th place.
Wait a second.
Wait a second.
This slime man. Oh my god.
We need to give context to this. We need to give context right now. All right. Do you want to give the context, Levin?
Okay. So for context, guys, we did a practice run of the top 5 because we used like a website to do it all, right? We did a practice run and we accidentally revealed some of the answers, or one of the answers was accidentally revealed, and the answer was 5th place, which was Bolts. And so I told the boys I'm gonna change the quiz because they had one of the answers.
I should have known.
And then I didn't change the quiz. So in 5th place was Bolts. Bolts was 5th place. In 4th place was Cold. So I think both of you had. Oh no,
I didn't.
Harry didn't.
Wait, who's not here?
In 3rd place was Vic0. Vic0 had the third most damage of anybody on EU and NA. In 2nd place was Vic0. Vic0 was 2nd place in damage across EU and NA. Number 1 in EU, but 2nd place across both regions, because in number 1, it's the Big Pete, Skinny Pete in 1st place. Peterbot, what a surprise there. That is the top 5.
Rigged.
I'm incredible at this game. Like,
it doesn't count. This one doesn't count.
Oh no, this one counts for sure.
No,
this one does count. And Boop wins. Boop had 4 correct answers. Harry
Sorry,
had
hold
3.
on a second. So when we had three challenges, it didn't count. But now we got 2, it counts. Okay,
yeah, I mean this is without external guests. It's gotta count.
Yeah.
You know?
No, this counts. This is internal. So
I'm doing the next top 5. I'm doing the next top 5. This smug 11 needs to be put.
What do you mean the smug 11? Like you lost, bro.
No, I'm putting it. I'll do the next top 5.
Hey, Harry, how about you just stop being a loser, man? Huh? How about that?
There you go. Let's
get better.
I'm doing the top 5 next.
Also, shout out to Bolts. Holy shit, I didn't realize he was that.
Yeah.
Bolts is insane. I mean, Bolts guys were like a sleeper this weekend.
Yeah, shout out to Bolts and Reet. You know, they went crazy this weekend. They went crazy this weekend.
Did Harry turn into Queasy or something, or what? Or Blood X?
Right. Well, let us know in the comment section below if you had the correct top 5. And if you tied with Boop with 4 points, give yourself an extra half point for correct positioning on the list, because Boop had all the right, or most of the right people, but not
Flickzy,
some of the right positions. Yeah. Let's talk about NA, because we, you know, Harry with the nice segue there. NA was won by Peterbot and Pollo. They win back-to-back FNCS. They win back-to-back
NA was meant to be
FNCS.
interesting.
I mean, look, when it came to our NA bracket last week, we were on point towards the end there with our NA bracket, because, yeah, Peterbot and Pollo, we said they would win, and they did win. But a lot of people predicted them to do really well, right? It's Peterbot and Pollo. They won FNCS last season in the most dominating way we've ever seen. They were landing at the best spot this season. Even if they weren't as dominant as last season, a lot of us could see that they clearly didn't have their foot on the gas. But come grand finals, Big Pete does what Big Pete does. And yeah, they win. I mean, was anybody surprised about anything to do with that? Was there anything about their win that you found interesting outside of just 2 best players?
They got Island every game. They literally just get Island every... It's understandable. They're the best fighting team at the best landing spot with the best loot going for Island. But they just get it every game. No one is weird. They still have the aura of last season. They can just take anything they want and no one does anything about it. So being able to get the Rig and Island every single game, I mean, you set yourself up pretty well there.
I mean, I said this last season when they won, and I say it again this season. They underperformed. Like you know, like I mean,
underperformed.
They did, because like I think they weren't that good. I don't know. I mean, they won the FNCS, but I swear they were not good. And I think the stats also back it up. There was a Kinch stat that basically they got ticked for Surge 50 times in the grand finals.
It doesn't matter if they're ticked.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, it doesn't matter because they got Infinite Shield, but like they should never be under Surge with Peterbot fucking locking on and the best they are in the game and Infinite Medallion Surge Shield to trade Surge with, right? Like, I mean, again, they underperformed. Like, they should have been, the way that they played and the rest of the lobby, they should have been, I mean, dude, I was expecting a 100-point lead by the end of day 1, but it just never came. Like, the fact that Vic0 and Flickzy were that close to them, I thought was surprising to me. Obviously, like we said, like, they're not really trying as hard this season, but I think they should have done better. And that obviously isn't me talking shit. That just says how good they are because they just didn't really lock in the season, I feel like.
I mean,
oh no, that's getting clipped. Yeah. Oh, they're not making globals, by the way. They're not making globals. Yeah.
That was last season. Last season. Like, stop this last season going, right? Anyway, like, all I'm saying is we cannot talk about underperformances when we literally have one EU team make it from NA.
Oh, I know. They suck.
We
suck.
Man. Okay,
I was ready to get on this. I was getting ready to get on this podcast, have the champagne popping, have the EU flag out ready. Yeah, I was just like.
I mean, we should have been wearing black for the funeral of
honestly,
EU.
We should have.
Congratulations. But the bigger story is, why did we stink up the gaff so badly? Why were we just every team? Why was every team so bad? Apart from Vic0 and Flickzy, they were definitely overperforming what people expected going into grands, right? Obviously, they had some unfortunate situations, but the rest of the EU teams, man, like, I mean, I don't have any words.
Let's have some decorum. Let's start off. Let's talk about Vic0 and Flickzy then, because Vic0 and Flickzy obviously have qualified for globals. They came 4th place. But a lot of disappointment for them. They are another big story of this weekend because obviously they were in pole position to win after day 1. They looked really good. To be fair, there were a lot of people that still thought Peterbot and Pollo would overtake them come day 2. But they were in first after day 1. They looked set to win, and then there was a bunch of really weird stuff that happened with them, with all the grief and stuff with Zypher on day 1, and there's obviously stuff on day 2 that really happened that was really weird. Like, what did we make of Vic0 and Flickzy in this FNCS Grand Finals?
So for context, for those of you that don't know how Vic0 and Flickzy play, they have a very, very fragile and intricate playstyle where they get a lot of early surge early on into the game, and then they basically play Storm for the next 3 to 4 zones until they get into zone in like 4th or 5th zone. And essentially what that does, it gives them a lot of mats and gets them to zone without having to build and get griefed by other teams. Now, the issue with that strategy is that, like I said, it's very fragile. And what basically happened in the end of day number 1 is Zypher, and whether or not you believe that Booga asked him to do so, he is Booga's roommate. He basically went to the POI and shut out the vending machine. And those vending machines are very, very integral to the playstyle because obviously, if you're playing in zone, you need to get white heals, so they need the mech kits on the vending machine. So they went across and broke his vending machine. Now, I think Vic0 and Flickzy this weekend, they were really, really good. They were surprisingly good, in my opinion. But it wasn't like they were convincingly the best team, right? Day 1, they could have been first or they could have been 15th. Because every single game, it was on a knife's edge. I didn't really watch much of broadcast on NA. I watched pretty much exclusively Flickzy and Vic0 and Mongol Savage this weekend. And every single game, they were either 50 above Surge, or taking Storm Sickness on the edge of half an Av zone, getting lobby sprayed by another team, and then somehow they still made it out of those situations and into the Gen game, into a top 7 or a top 5. Like, it was more, I think, it was good strategy, but it was not perfect strategy, and I think individual talent reigned supreme in the performance this weekend.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you said there, right? They weren't, like, by far and away, like, the best team on day 1. I can agree with that. One thing I will say about day 1 is that Vic0 was by far and away the best player on day 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
The performance we saw from Vic0 day 1, that was as good as we've ever seen Vic0 in his career, it felt like. Like, that was prime Vic0 back for 6 games. Like, 1, what a delight. But 2, it was just like, it's weird because I think when people fantasized about like what would happen when Vic0 came to play with Clicks, right? In most people's ideal world, it was like, hopefully we see prime Vic0 again. But like, you don't actually think you're gonna see, especially because of like what we've seen the whole year, right? I know things with Vic0 and Tayson weren't great for a bunch of different reasons we can get into. Obviously, he personally has had just a very rough year, and props to him for going as strong as he's been able to go. But like, most people weren't actually expecting to see prime Vic0. Fucking hell, the guy was insane day 1. Like, it was crazy how good he was playing. And I was on top of the world because like my timeline, like you refresh the timeline on Saturday and it's just Vic0 glaze all over the gaff. Like, it was insane. Deserves Vic0 glaze all over the gaff. A lot of Clicks slander.
I was about to say, I feel like there was more Clicks slander as well. It was just like, does Clicks want to do
maybe
anything?
we just follow Trippin', to be honest.
True.
But I mean, as you said, it's a joy to watch because when you have players like Vic0 who has like a down period, right? We've seen the peak of Vic0, how good he was in end of chapter 3, beginning of chapter 4, like how insanely good he was as a fighter. And then he has a dip. And then you're like, is that it? Is that all we got to see from Vic0? Like, he had obviously the 6 out of 12 Equeezy. It's like, but you want careers to be longer, right? And then you get to see it. It's like, it's still there. He's still the same player. You know, it's not like it's gone and he's just forgotten how to do everything, right? It makes me excited for them at Globals. You know, you're not going to have random teams who are getting Storm Surge on the vending machine and shooting it from 500 meters away with a burst SMG.
So you never know.
Yeah. I mean, so I feel vindicated in this. I feel very vindicated in this because we didn't do the podcast back then, but I remember I did like a bunch of streams with like Pink back in in season 1 or chapter 5. And like, it was after like Vic0 and Tayson had like that first bad performance, right? And a lot of people were doing the whole like, is Vic0 wash thing? Where's prime Vic0 gone? Blah, blah, blah. But I remember saying to people like, did you guys watch the Grands? Like, I know he wasn't like crazy in terms of like getting like 1 million limbs or something, right? But like, he's still like good. Like, I always thought it was weird that because he had like a couple bad placements, people were just like, is he just bad now? Because like, you watch the game and he's still very clearly like one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
And I think in Fortnite in general, it's very hard to convince people of that when the results maybe don't necessarily match that. But like, this is why I tell people, like, sometimes you just gotta use your eyes. Like, if you use your eyes, even through some of those bad performances, it was very clear that Vic0 was still a very, 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 very good player. And so I'm glad that he's had like this season that I think now has reminded people of that. To be fair, even this season has exceeded what, you know, we saw this year by far of just like, it was insane. But yeah, really, really good performance, especially for Vic0 stocks, because, you know, we had the debates last season, right, around like Tayson and his placements. I know we'll get onto Tayson in a debate, right, the whole tier 1 thing. And I remember, right, during that stream, I think it was Harry had said it to me, and I don't want to throw him under the bus, But BloodX had also DM'd me
like
during one of those. No. I don't know. BloodX had DM'd me during one of those streams of the FNtasia episode, saying, "You guys are having this conversation about about Tayson. Low-key, when you look at Veno's placements, they were worse. Like, if you look at Veno's, he didn't make major 3 grand finals. Again, not the greatest at globals, and then the 15th of Tayson. Whereas Tayson had like 15. So it was like, if you actually looked at the placements, Veno's placements were worse, but people weren't really giving him as much as the like, is he washed stuff. But now stocks are through the sky right now, of course, back to where they should be for Veno. So congratulations to him on that.
They are very lucky that the LAN is being hosted in Texas, because those American vapes are hitting good. They have to be, because, I don't know what was in them. It was also, honestly, the biggest thing for me as well, it was a pleasure to see Prime Veno in action being live streamed as well, right? I think, obviously, Clicks hit record number of viewers. I think even from Chapter 1, Chapter 5, Season 1 this season, I think he broke the viewership. Everyone was tuning in. And it was great to see, like, Veno's passion, and it gave me a newfound respect for the way that he plays, because like that guy knows what he's talking about, right? Like, when he says things and he calls things, like there was a moment where it was like, yo, this guy's teammate, he crash padded. I was like, wait, how the fuck does he see that? And it was like, and then sure enough, there was a solo in the box right next to him, and they got a refresh, like 300 mats. It's like, damn, this guy is locked the fuck in, and it makes me excited to see like what they can do at globals as well without any of the bullshit. Maybe more pressure, but it doesn't seem like pressure is really affecting them either.
Pressure? What pressure? Pressure's for tires. Some people get that hit worse than Pink's. Anybody who watched the Euros this season will get that reference. Either way, as much as we're gonna get a bunch of Clicks people, because this is definitely gonna turn into a highlight, so there'll be a bunch of Clicks fans watching this. As much as Clicks got memed, I do think you gotta give props to Clicks for being able to catch up and like stay like. To be able to keep up with, I think that was actually something that Clicks got a lot of heat for at the start of the season. Like a lot of people were like, is he even going to be able to like keep up with Veno? Like, surely this isn't going to work. There was the whole like all the crash outs and the arguments and the blah 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 that we saw on stream and whatnot. And some of that clearly was clip farming, but like there was genuine concern there about like what the vibe's going to be like if things don't go their way. It's good to see that those two stuck together, even when they started getting griefed and things just weren't as good. Like. Clicks, I think, held his own for the most part, and I am genuinely really excited about their chances going into globals. Like, this is a team, depending on what the meta looks like, of course, next season, this is a team to really look out for.
Clicks is good.
I was going to say, we get to see Clicks on LAN, right? Obviously, with Global Championships last season, he didn't make it.
He didn't qualify,
Yeah, so this is a bit of redemption for him, right? To show what he can actually do on a LAN stage. And I think... obviously, this all depends. Everything for globals depends on the map and what you get on con and who you're contested by. Because once you're contested by a top team, which all the teams at globals probably will be, you're going to be asking for a bad placement. It's just, it's not like a grand finals maybe contested by a team with 1K earnings. Every team is a top team, right? But it makes me excited because also, as you said, they're not going to be streaming it. So it's going to be like they're fully locked in. Clicks isn't going to, obviously Clicks is still locked in, but it's like there's no distraction with stream. There's nothing. There's no chat. There's no nothing. It is
numbers
just,
on pumping. Yeah,
exactly. It's just his play style and his placements and how I'm so excited to watch him play online.
For about the Clicks land on the timeline, I think there's two really important things to realize is that number one, and I talked about this when Mongo played with Savage, right? It takes a strong mental type of player to go from being the guy in the duo, right? Like he was the guy when he was playing with Epic. He was the carry to going on the back foot and playing like the support player role, right? Like you can say that Veno's doing everything. He's doing the kills, he's doing the damage, he's doing the topping, but like Clicks is a part of that duo as well. He's getting the surge as well. He is, I'd say, probably the perfect duo for Veno in this case because he's probably one of the few players that can actually keep up with Veno. Like, his mechanics are so good. If Veno does a 360 side jump, triple-headed backflip, Clicks is going to be right there with you. You're never losing Clicks in the tops in the end game, right? So Clicks in that case is like one of the best players for Veno because he can follow him. He's never going to get lost. He's not going to die randomly in a random spot. You can trust that he's going to be there with you. So he deserves a lot of credit there. On top of that, like I said, it takes a lot for someone to step back and be a support player. And the growth that he's had in the, 3 months it's been since Veno went to NA and moved in with Clicks is honestly really, really good. And I think there is still a lot that I think requires of Clicks to be there. And I mean, we can make like a Vic0 comparison as well, but I think there was like a few games, especially in day number 1, where there was like free loot somewhere in the zone, and then Clicks was afraid to get the loot, right? Yeah. And I think that he needs to sort of break out of his shell a little bit more, which is funny to say because he's a very independent player, but he kind of has that Vic0 effect right now where he's afraid to make a few too many mistakes, so he doesn't go for the plays that he needs to. So I think that is the one thing that I want to see in the next 30 days is him break out of that shell and become a little bit more independent in the way that him and Vic0 play together, because he needs to be independent as well. Yeah, he needs to be empowered in that duo if they want to have a chance at winning globals. And I think they are a shout potentially to do well as a team at global championships, and it requires a lot of hard work from Clicks himself. But I think he does. I think he does need props. In 3 months, he's grown a lot. But in the next 30 days, that's I think going to be the focus: is how much can Clicks now get? He's comfortable now, and how much can he get into the uncomfortable to become that fragging power that we know he is?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree all across the board there. I think it's an exciting future for that duo for sure. A very exciting future. When I look at some of the other duos, though, of course, who made it to globals, Batman Booga Rapid, we have to mention them as a team who came second place, playing one less game.
Yeah,
you never know what could happen if they got that extra game. But as
Mickey Mouse FNCS.
Yeah, it doesn't really count anyway. As you said, they only Peterbot and Pollo only finished 80 points ahead of the team who played one less game. Does it really count at that point? But no, like for a team as like before the season, right? Who would ever expect Batman Booga and Rapid to finish second and people not be like, wow, what an insane placement, right? It's like people kind of expected it. With the performance they were having this whole season, it's like you kind of expected them to have this type of placement. And you know, it's huge props to them. They've been grinding really hard, as you touched on Boop in one of the other podcasts, right? And I think it shows what hard work can do, right? And I'm really excited to see what they can do on land. Batman Booga, I know Batman Booga's been on land. I can't remember if Rapid has, or they might play together. I can't remember, but I'm excited to see what they can do on land for sure. It's definitely the start of something good for them.
I mean, I know we've made this like point a bit already with them. Like, it shows what can happen when you're actually a really good player and you get 0 ping. You know, it's like if you are a really good player and you get 0 ping, it can turn your fortunes around if you're willing to put in the grind as well, which they have. I mean, a lot of people going into grands sort of did what was almost happening to Vic0 at times in EU, where they were going cash cups. Come on, man, give me a break. You know, it's like, you know, and again, who knows what would have happened if it was the same, you know, Slurp, Cacti meta we had beforehand without the changes. But ultimately, they came into this grand and they performed how they performed all season long. I think I don't know who it was. It might have been SBG or Kinch or somebody on Twitter made the point that like they've been the best duo in NA this season. Like in terms of like consistently, if you look at like all the performances, all the tournaments, they have the case to say that they were the best team in NA over the course of the whole season, which is fair when you obviously look at like, you know, Peterbot and Pollo's slow start, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, when we did our power rankings, they were first, right? Like they were first in the power rankings we did. Then they go on to have second in grands, and there's a second with the caveat of they actually only got to play 11 games. Like these guys have had a crazy season.
Insane.
And it's sad, and I do remember who said this. This was SBG that said this. It's going to be forgotten about. It's going to be forgotten. Nobody's going to give a fuck about this season in like a year from now, you know, which is sad because it genuinely has been such an impressive season. I hope they can use this momentum to catapult into just being, you know, one of the top teams in NA. You know, in NA every season you expect certain people. Peterbot, Pollo, Acorn Cold, Canada Coop. Like, I hope this season now isn't just the end of that for them. Like, I hope they now put themselves in that category of players where you just always expect them to be a contender because they have been phenomenal. Other teams that called for globals, Trashy and Frets. I mean, that one's crazy, right? Because they were a duo. They weren't a duo until semifinals. And now they've, you know, qualified for the global championships.
But there's two of those duos, right? With Muds and Epicwell as well, right? It's like they both split and they both qual globals. I think it's
gotta feel good.
It does feel good. I still think it's crazy that duos do this, by the way. Obviously, this was a specific
this one was understandable.
Yeah. This one was a little bit more understandable, but the fact duos can split and then still have this type of performance with 2 weeks practice, like, it is crazy. And, you know, I'm excited for them. And yeah, I think for threats as well, he's been a top player for so long. And to be honest, like, he's a player who I feel gets really underrated, like throughout a lot of seasons. I don't really think he ever really gets the props he deserves. And for him to get a placement like this really, really is a good sign for him.
It's the honeymoon buff. Teams are finally realizing it and abusing it, you know? Like, who knows how long that's gonna last, but I am very happy. I think it's great when, you know, I feel like Trashy's gonna be like, hell yeah, man. Like, he's probably like, fuck, must also qualify, but we outplaced them at least. You know, that's good. It feels good for them. So
I mean, you mentioned threats there. Trashy's just come 5th and 4th in his last 2 FNCSs. He's on a crazy streak right now. Like and of course it was fucked up what happened with him again with the whole ESL stuff. But like the past 2 seasons for Trashy has been great. And props to him. Like 4th playing with Skittles, and then now this season joined up with Threats last minute and they come 5th. Like that is really impressive for me. The big booger. The only remaining player left in the GOAT debate, if you ask some
small
people.
Booger now.
The second Booger.
The second Booger in NA.
Respect,
7th place with Aviv. A good performance. Going to be good to see Booger at Global Championships. And again, I think the main narrative now of Booger is obviously Mira and Tayson are not going to be at the Global Championship. So a lot of people now saying, hey, if Booger wins this one, you know, does he close the GOAT debate? Or does he, you know, put himself ahead in the GOAT debate or whatever. I'm sure we'll have conversations about that. I don't want to get into a deep GOAT debate. Maybe we can save that now for like next week or something, because I feel like we could talk forever about that. But, you know, good to see Boogo obviously playing at Globals. Bryce and Bolts, both of them going to be going back to Globals now. Really happy for them. They were, you know, a really good team this season. There was the whole thing be popping with,
as well.
Interviews will be electric.
The surge strategy was pretty good.
I mean, Rhea and Rich will probably think so, I'm sure they...
I think so. We'll see how that works on LAN, but still, they are a good team, right? This doesn't... What everyone's seen on Twitter with the whole... the surge trading and whatever you want to call it from there, but I think that doesn't define them anything like that. They are still top. They're still top.
Let's give the proper context. I'm realizing now there will be people who haven't got a clue what saying. Basically, during Grands, Queasy posted a video that basically showed like Bryce and Bolts, Reet and Ritual, both like trading surge. Reet gets a knock onto one of them in their base, and it looked very much like a situation where like you've just knocked one of them, you just push them, right? Like surely you just push them, and he doesn't push, and then they keep just trading damage later on or whatever. And so a lot of people were very much throwing accusations of like this is clear collusion. Like they're clearly just trading surge, don't have any intention of actually killing each other, but just doing it to benefit both sides, which we've seen many people be banned for in the past, and potentially we'll be seeing people get banned for this season. So a lot of people very, very sus about that. But like how he's saying, like they were still very good as a team, like even outside of some of that stuff. So I can understand why, people might be looking at them a bit like, don't know about that one.
To play devil's advocate in that clip, his teammate was pretty far behind, right? Like
Reet
you can make
far,
it, Reet was far behind. Like you can make an argument, like, is it worth pushing as a solo WK and what potentially your game can be ruined? Also, why break a bad thing? You know, why piss off your neighbors in this case? If they're going to be trading surge with you anyway. So I mean, let's be honest, everyone's doing it. So like, in this case, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, they're teaming. This is Mickey Mouse. How dare they qualify? Everyone's doing it. It's just, you know, everyone's more hush hush about it. A little bit less obvious.
Is that not a problem though, man?
That's a problem.
Fortnite, I feel like there is a big problem that we have in Fortnite that is just not being addressed, because you're right. You're 100% right in saying that is no. If you think they're the only ones doing it, you are like so many people do this, right? So it's like, is there something that needs to be addressed in Fortnite where like this is a problem? This shouldn't happen.
For sure. I wanted to quickly say as well, it's like a team in Middle East who came fourth got banned for this. They got banned for teaming. So in Middle East, it was top 3 to qual globals. The team that came first, Cal Gamer and Severman, had already qualified to globals. So fourth was the qualification spot. The team that came fourth, I can't remember their name. I think it was Snow. Snow and Smicky, I think their names were. And they were landing rig. But they have been banned for teaming. They have been actually fully taken off the leaderboard for teaming. And from what it looks like, and now another team is taking their spot for globals.
I think that was a slightly different context. I'm not sure if this is the same team, but I think there was a clip of them literally talking to their opponents like, yo, that's me, or something, while they were streaming.
Crazy.
So I think that was it, but like, again, they were banned.
I think that might have been the clip of Bryson Bolts. That was you're not me, guys.
Chill. Nah. I mean, is it a problem? Yes. Does Epic need to make a statement about it? Yes. What does that change though, right? Like, how can you ever ban for it? Like how do you draw the line? Like it's very difficult because like it's in your best interest to trade church.
There's no line at the moment. That's the problem. There isn't a line. There's just like it's been pushed and pushed to the point now where you look back at the Bucky and Creo and Key and Slack incident in chapter 2, and you're like, fucking hell, they were ahead of the map. They were 3 chapters ahead. Yeah. And it's like. It's that's the point we're at now. It's like they're not making examples of teams. They're not saying like, look, you cannot do this. This is not allowed. You're not allowed to be able to get to the same points every single game, trade surge every single game, and then go along your merry way. Like you have to actually, get surge in the normal ways. And I feel like this is something that isn't really being, so it hasn't. There's no hammer being hit down from Epic. There's nothing being done. It just feels like they're just doing nothing. They're just like, okay, whatever. It doesn't really affect us too much that teams are trading. They're not full cheating. They're not hacking. So let's just let them do it.
To not focus on the negatives too much here. I think Bryson Bolts were insane this weekend. I think they were also missing a game, by the way. I'm pretty sure. I think they played 11 games as well. So there was a point where they were like third place. I'm like, holy shit, they could maybe also win this shit. Unfortunately, it didn't get to that point. But I think that's a duo that just oozes consistency. Like they were in a relatively meh spot this season, but like they were just doing super well. And I think they're a team that's definitely I feel like NA had they're definitely a sleeper team. And I feel like NA's had the same tier ones for a long ass time, right? Like it's always been the same ones. Yumzo, Rise, Acorn, Cold, Peterbot and Pollo, I guess I have the upcoming team, but like they've been consistent now for the last 2 to 3 seasons as well. We're finally getting some newer-ish names. Like in EU, we always get a lot of swaps around, like in tier 1s, tier 2s, and then now we're getting the come up of these guys that are like legitimately contenders to win tournaments. Like Bryson Bolts, Bolts obviously has won NA West FNTS. I don't think it's a real tournament, but like he's had it before. But I think there's nice now. Ooh. Now we have like a legitimate come up of these teams that are now the real deal and considered like Batman, Booger Rapid, and Bryson Bolts.
Well, I think the key is to. I don't think it's like. I feel like up and coming is not the right term because all these guys have been here. Like they're established names in the region. Bryce won games and online at globals, multiple right? Games, so like I think it's more so, and even like in the case of Vic0, right? I feel like is another good one. Vic0 and Flickzy you can put in that category of like people who have been around for a while, but they're now establishing themselves as like the top tier, at the top.
They're taking the next step.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was an interesting stat from Bryson Bolts, right? So they obviously were taking the same forecast tower of Vic0 and Flickzy, right? And on day 2, they got 0 out of 6 forecast spawns.
Yeah.
There is a 0.4% chance of that happening.
Yes,
they got that unlucky on day 2.
You could take them all.
Yeah, like Vic0 and Flickzy got them all, right? But that is crazy. You don't know how different a placement that can have. If you're getting maybe 2 or 3 more forecast towers, that could push you up the leaderboard drastically. For sure. Moving on though, 9th place, another team that make it to globals. Vic0 and Paper, the hype train. We did it. We made it. We got one.
We made it. I mean, I wish I was more happy because of the EU teams, but Vic0 and Paper make it to globals. Super happy about them. Shout out to both of them, man. Great players. I mean, Paper had been popping off all season, and I think like a lot of people had started to notice it in the past couple of weeks where they like were watching him and they're like, holy shit, is Paper primed right now? Like, what's going on? Like, Vic0 as well, of course. I think I said it on this podcast last season where it's like, I remember the first time I clocked onto Vic0 was like, I was watching NA Grands one season. I can't even remember what season it was, but I was watching NA Grands one season. And like, they just always would go to him and he was just always bossing someone. And I'm like, hold on, who is this guy? And his dad / coach, great banter as well. Great content from those guys. So props to them for making it. And then the last team to make it was Shadow. Was it Shadow and Virgo? Oh, no. Shadow and Virgo made it.
It was
Packer and Pars in 12th made it as well. So those
I don't know if they're still missing the points. I'm not sure.
No, On Fortnite Tracker, it's updated.
Cool. Yeah. So Vic0 and Pars and Aegis, and no, not Aegis, sorry.
Not Aegis.
No.
Shadow and Vic0 and Vic0 and Pars are the last two teams to wrap it up and to qualify to the global championships from NA. Props to Shadow and Vic0. I think they surprised a bunch of people. On our bracket, we had them against Mongo and Savage, and Mongo and Savage beat them on our bracket. But Mongo and Savage beat a lot of people they shouldn't have on our bracket. So, you know, that is...
Cacti.
We can blame the cactus, yeah.
We can blame the cactus. But
I mean, I think Virgo is his second ever FNTS Grand Finals as well. So, like,
Crazy.
you know, damn.
That's crazy.
Fair play.
Yeah. Do we now have to talk about UTs? Could we just skip over that? You know, they weren't there. You know, they were there.
I mean, yeah, I guess this is the last sort of thing to really talk about here in NA.
I mean, I think we can start off with the number one thing. It's the 15th place curse yet again for Big Tayson.
Tayson and Yomzo placed 15th in this grand finals. Wow.
I mean, we got to have the conversation soon, you know? The one we don't want to have. I don't know.
I mean, he made the tweet, obviously, Tayson, afterwards about, like, he's going to think about his career. And
the first time we've seen that ever, by the way. Yeah.
I wanted to bring the question of, like, what do you do if you're in Tayson's shoes? Do you either, you know, do you go and you just maybe, because obviously they're the best team going into EWC, right? They probably are going to either win or come second or finish pretty high. After EWC, do you quit and just say, you know what, I've had my legacy, I've done insanely well, move on, right? Or do you go and play with like a lower level player? Not that much lower, but you know, like an Eyedrop, a Nebs, that sort of level, right? Because he's no longer a
Phantom.
Like a lower level player, right? Or do you go for a crazy fighter like Haris or someone like that, like a Balkan player who could then, you know, who could bring the firepower to your team? Because to me, it's such a hard decision, because is playing with a Nebs or an Eyedrop or a Kiduo really going to take him back to winning FNCSs? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's it. And it's the same question as, like, do you think playing with like a Haris or playing with like a Mariscal is going to take him to winning an FNCS? That's also a hard question to answer.
I don't know. Yeah, it is worrying that he made a tweet like the first time ever, like saying, I'll decide now what I do next with my career. I didn't think we've ever seen him have that sort of tweet or that sort of mentality going into something. And, you know, we've always had the thing of Taste is like, yeah, he just doesn't try, you know, like he doesn't practice. But like, I feel like this season he practiced a lot too, right? Like, and whether or not like Slurp plants, I think probably would have been the difference between them making globals or not making globals. It probably accentuates the issues that were there. But I mean, at the end of the day, like this, you're not making globals, right? The slow plans we can blame all we want, but they're not making globals. So career-wise, it is just tough. Like I feel like from his side, he probably thought, okay, when I start practicing and grinding again and having the motivation again, then the placements will come again. And now the placement hasn't come. It's like, okay, what now? Like what do I do now? How much more can I do? I played with one of the best players in NA. In an easier region, or maybe not anymore, and it wasn't good enough. What I don't know. I have no words for it.
I mean, for me, one thing that like exasperates the problem is Yomzo's legitimately like not come outside top 10 in like Yomzo's been
since 2022.
Since 2022, Yomzo's been locked in. He's gonna get top 10 in FNCS Grand Finals. No matter who he's playing with, he's gonna be a top 10 in FNCS Grand Finals. And you know, I remember making that point to people before Grands of like, you mean to tell me Yomzo, this guy who always gets top 10, is going to start playing with Tayson and then all of a sudden not get top 10, you know? But, like, even for me, my brain couldn't fathom it. And yes, I'm sure there's things with the Slurp Cacti that will come in and be like, that was a big problem, whatever. Ultimately, man, it just is not a good look for Tayson. And it's a hard conversation to have. And it's hard for me to come with you with a real answer, Harry, because it's like, what does he do? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if Tayson is at that point, because again, a lot of, you know, when we have the conversation of being a tier 1, a lot of being a tier 1 is actually just what the other tier 1s think, right? So you could not be a tier 1 player in the eyes of everybody else, but if all the tier 1s want to play with you, then you're a tier 1 player, right? Like, it almost, you know what I mean? So is Tayson now at the point where he's like lost respect from tier 1 players? Like, would tier 1 players now not actually want to play with him? I'm not sure yet, because I've not spoken to many people, so I don't know what the vibes are in that sense. But like, just thinking about it on EU, you look at the people we consider tier 1s, logically, would any of those people play with him? There's a couple of them that might be looking for duo next year. Logically, would any of them play with him? Probably not. So. Like, why? Do you know what I mean? Like, there would be better options or other people you try with. Like, it is a really weird point, and I think that's part of why maybe he is having those thoughts. If you're Tayson, it's weird because I think
he's good enough to get better placements. So that's
right.
In my eyes,
and I agree. No, this is the thing as well. I don't want to feel like we're overreacting because, like, look at how they played this season. They were one of the best teams in LA. They won the Catch Cup before. Like, it's not like they were just bad like this season. Because if he had just been bad all season with Yomzo, then I feel like the conversation would be different. Right? Yeah. Then it's like different. But like, they were one of the best teams in NA this season, and they did grands with. So like, what kind of conversation are we having here? I don't think we're at the what. As weird as it might be saying, maybe I'm just holding on to something with Tayson here that is not there anymore. But I'm not yet at the washed point. But
he's not washed.
I am at the point of like, have you run out of options? Have you burnt too many bridges? Is it just like, what do you do now? And at that point, and we've seen players get to that point where like they might not even be washed, but it's like, who do they now play with? Like, I remember like Chapix had that problem, right? Like I didn't when Chapix started playing bad, right? Like Chapix was still decent at the point where like things started to go downhill for him, but then at that point it was just like, who was Chapix going to play with? And he didn't have better options. So then again, the results just get worse because you're playing with worse people. He stops grinding, like, and even playing with Chino was like that's when he came back. Right?
Yeah.
Before that, like he just stopped playing for a while because like, what the fuck am I gonna do? And Tayson might be getting to that point where it's like he might not even fully be washed. Like there's still something to give there, clearly. But who takes that chance on him? Who's the right fit for him to get the best out of him? I would have thought that was the Yomzo.
Does he have that dog in him as well to like care enough to do it as well, right? Like does he want to go back into the trenches effectively to make it happen again? I'm not convinced. I'm not too sure about it.
I mean, he's playing this. He's looking for a duo for this EU Duo Cash Cup. Obviously,
I was going to say
comes out today, right?
It might be something with environment. I mean, that brother was straight back to EU.
Yeah,
he said, "Fuck Texas." He's back in the EU already. So
he was on Sky Scanner mid last game. Like he's getting the
first class flights to Slovenia. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because obviously the word that always is, as we've said, is wash. That's the word that always gets brought around when the player goes from being good to less good, right? But he's not gone from being good to being shit. He's just not mediocre. The Tayson who won all the FNCSs, right? He's obviously not. Look, we can give Tayson the benefit of the doubt, and we always will because Tayson's Tayson. He has had some of the greatest runs in Fortnite history. Right? Been the best player for so many different chapters. But at the end of the day, he isn't that. He doesn't look like he's that same Tayson who could win an FNCS, but he's not awful. He's not. He's making grand finals and he's still doing well in cash cups and everything leading up to an FNCS. So he still has that capability like Vic0 did. But it was like, as you said, we touched on it earlier. It's like Vic0 and Tayson were both having kind of the similar sort of paths of like a bad year of placements. And you can see the difference. Vic0 has arguably the best performance in the whole of NA Grands, and Tayson, well, doesn't even make global championships. And yeah, I want to see Tayson on the top again. I want to see Tayson winning, and it's not. No one wants to see him do bad. It's just conversations have to be had when you have a year of bad placements. You can't really not have them.
And honestly, it's like I'm at some point. I'm sure I or somebody else will do this, probably at risk of being blocked by Tayson.
Absolutely.
But somebody is going to put the placements that he's had and just not say his name. People still know it's him, but someone's going to put the placement and then put it next to other people's placements, like blinds without the names there.
Who's the tier one?
Who's the better player? Like who's the tier one? Or like and
it was like a tweet.
But that's what I'm saying. Like someone's going to do it eventually, and it's going to look bad because his placements in Grands and the most important tournaments over the past year just aren't good enough for someone of his name status and name value.
It is, of course. It also comes at the worst time too. Right? Like with no FNCS for the next 6 months, and then OG Fortnite FNCS, which is Mickey Mouse as well. It's like now we have 7 months of nothing. Like it's if he's
7
hungry
months to convince ourselves he's even more washed. Than
who's he gonna come back with after global championships? I can't name you a single player in the EU that would probably drop the duo right now. Like Mercedes Malibuca, nah. Vic0 Flickzy, no. Queasy Thomas, maybe, but like Are we going to see Thomas HG and Tayson again?
That's not the
No,
cook.
that-
No.
Or Queasy
That's not the cook,
Tayson?
like-
That's just
That's
never going
not
to
the
work
cook.
out. Cammy
Yeah.
and Tayson?
That's
Oh,
not the cook.
okay, maybe, but
It's
like,
a better cook, but it's not the cook.
Yeah, like I don't
No.
see anyone. It's gotta be an underrated player. Like he's gotta pick up a Harris or a Phantom or something. Like drop ego
Yeah.
and go
Yeah.
back into the trenches.
I mean,
But it's Tayson that guy though. It's Tayson that guy to teach someone how to play the game. Is Tayson the
He
person?
did with
Does he-
Mustache, to be fair.
but that's part of why they ended up not playing him, because he lost his
Yeah.
patience, right? Like, because
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard for him to be that guy, right? Like, because again, it's not, you know, if you ask Mustache about, you know, what that was like, it wasn't the most pleasant experience for Mustache, right? So,
No.
you know, how many players want to put themselves through that? Again, we should caveat this conversation with saying, even with these placements, these are bad placements for Tayson. If you also do that placement game and put it blind, and you told me, oh, those were fucking Sky and Scrolls placements over the year of FNCS, I'd be like, wow,
Damn, it's good.
on
Yeah.
Sky and
But
Scrolls,
we're
hey.
comparing
You know?
Tayson and Sky and
But
Scroll.
that's the point, right? It's like those aren't bad placements, but for Tayson, those are not good
Yeah.
placements, right? That's the point. Like, they're not bad placements objectively for like the average player, for any player. It's more
he
so
hasn't missed the
Tayson's,
grants.
you're right. So it's like, yeah, it's a weird one. I really will be keen to see what he does next. I will say I'm not going to be overreacting to like anything now. So like whoever he plays with now, like if he ends up playing with fucking some washed guy in the Cash Cup today, as we're recording this, I'm not going to be like, damn, this is Tayson's level. Like, I'm going to wait until we have like something big. I'm sure he'll be trying with a bunch of people, maybe even take a break. Who knows? But he's got ESL coming up.
Tweets on the duos.
Maybe, yeah. He's got ESL coming up. I'm sure the Falcon boys will be locked in for that, and it probably wins that, right? Maybe he wins that. His confidence is back, his passion's back. Who knows? I don't know what it is, but something's definitely wrong with our Tayson. I just want my Tayson back. That's all I want.
Like, and talking about players, you know, we want back. I mean, Pink and Mirror, like that this weekend from Pink and Mirror, I think is just this. That was like Tayson was very shocking. Don't get it, like that was very shocking, but Pink and Mirror was probably the most shocking. Like this is, well, it's defending champion, not going back to globals. It's Pink who, after last season, was one of the favorites going into the grand finals for EU, right? It's Pink who came 5th in the first grand finals of EU. It's them to not even get close. It's not even like they were, you know, they came 14th, whatever. They didn't even get
close at all. No,
it's just crazy, and I'm worried for Pink because I think his stocks right now after Vic0 splitting and winning FNCS to this, I'm worried for him.
It's not looking good. It's like even when you were looking at his options, and he didn't know who to play with in EU. It's part of why he went to NA, right? It was like,
yeah.
I mean, and to be fair, Pixie went on to have a great Grand performance. I know we didn't talk much about Janice and Pixie, but Pixie individually was crazy in the Grand. But like, his options weren't the best Pink when he was in EU, and I don't know, they're definitely haven't gotten better. But I mean, we'll see. I think the main thing that is of concern is like, and I said it when we were doing our Grand prediction stream. There was a lot of pressure on them because they're both coming off of just bad performances in the last Grands, right? For both of them, being good is a big part of the identity of who they are, right? Like Pink is known as one of the best IGLs, right, in the EU, right? Even though he's not, like Pink doesn't have the titles to match maybe like the status he had, but it was like he had that respect and he had good placements to where you're like, okay, you got to put some respect on Pink. And Miro's whole thing, of course, was like, yeah, like, you know, he's Miro, he's got all the FNCS titles, but he's still good now. And he's, you know, he's not washed it, he's not full of, he's going to have that big performance. And for neither of those guys to be at globals, it's heartbreaking, it's gut-wrenching. For two players I really like, two people who I really like, Pink, someone I consider a friend as well. So it's been hard to see that happen for them. I don't really know what's next. I haven't gone back to watch their games, so I don't know what's gone bad really for them.
I did have a look.
I saw Pink, I think, said like he felt like they were getting a lot of like unlucky BS that was going on and whatnot. But like, yeah, I'd be interested to know really what was the problem this Grand. This is a bad result.
Yeah, I mean, they were getting, like, I did watch their games after day one. I didn't watch much of their day two games, but they were getting punished for being split a lot. There was some weird deaths, like they'd be in Storm and a team was deep in Storm, very deep in Storm, camping on old builds and just 3-2-1's mirror and kills him instantly. But there's some deaths where it's like, you're in an area, in a meta, where there are crash pads and they land in an area where there's dashes. If you're going to be that isolated and split, you are putting yourself in a risk to get crash padded on. Like, you are just in a risk to get Fizz crash padded on. And it felt like it happened a lot where Miro, most of the time it was Miro, but it's not down to his fault. It's Miro or Pink would just get jumped on as a solo, and the other player would be 200 meters, 100 meters away. And it's like, they just die so quickly. And in this meta where you can die within seconds in games, it's like, I felt like that landing spot's a struggle to play at anyway, right? We've only ever seen one good placement from it in Cooper and Canada. And it just felt like they didn't have the respect from the rest of the lobby, because Cooper and Canada didn't really have many problems in that season. Obviously, that helped with Peterbot and Pollo landing from the gate.
Yeah.
But they literally, like, it just felt like they were just getting picked off as a solo, and they had to reboot every single game. They had to recover every single game. And it was just, they never got to, they didn't feel like they got going. And it just felt like every game was just, they were just playing hard mode.
It feels like the tail of the season anyways. Like, it maybe just, I mean, I haven't watched the game for reference, but like the way that you're making it sounds like a lack of preparation, you know, a lack of actual game plan or anything. Because like getting crash pad on if you're on a surge base is very simple. If you watch any of the EU teams day number 1, these motherfuckers were building gazebos on top of their surge bases. Like, they had like the surge base, and then they had like 2 wooden walls and then cones on top of it. Like, they had shade from the sun to prevent people from crash padding on your heads. How does this affect Miro's legacy is, I guess, the question now, because, like, you know, he's not going to continue at globals. We might not see that. We won't see the back-to-back. We might see the back-to-back with Cooper potentially, but we now have 2 goats of the game out of the biggest tournament of the season. Yeah, I don't think the heart was in it. I think there was a lot of motivation traveling across the country to go and play with Miro, and then when it was there, I don't think. I think if you ask Pink, was this season what you imagined, other than placements, right? Like, wasn't it what you imagined, like, behind the scenes? I think he would say no. I don't think that the preparation, the work that was put in was sufficient enough for him and their standards to do good enough, and I think that showed in the placements. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they prepared a lot. I don't know, but
I mean,
what I felt like
Cacti's
from outside, like, yeah.
I want to say one last thing about Pink, right? And I think he has been hard done by the meta changes the day before FNCS, right? When I think of Pink, I think of him as a very structured player who has a really structured game plan, understands how he wants to play, and he prepares it over the whole season, right? That's what I think of Pink, right? And then that's why I think a lot of people, when you watch Pink, that's how he's like when he played with Vic0, their endgames were one of the best. They were the best endgame team. They utilized the bananas the best in last season. They were able to get deep into endgames, right? But last season, Chain of Hades get removed the day before FNCS. Or it was the week of FNCS at least, right? So you now have a POI or a split with much worse loot. And when they're trying to fight for Surge, if you have floppers, shieldfish, it's much easier to keep pressure on. If you trade with a team in a fight and you have floppers and shieldfish and they have bigs and, you know, fizz, well, you can just keep pressuring whilst they're having to pop their bigs and fizz. You're going to win fights naturally, right? You lose that, you have worse loot. Now you're fighting at a disadvantage, right? This season, Cacti gets removed. Their whole game plan was reliant on going and dashing towards Cacti, getting Cacti, and trading with Surge. That gets removed. Now the day before FNCS, they have to prepare again. I think Pink has been really hard done by the meta changes, and I don't think this is respective of him as a player. It's fucking sucks because I don't think I love watching Pink play. I think he is one of my favorite IGLs to watch because I think comms wise, as we talked about on the last podcast, clean. I think his comms are always really clean. And I think when you watch of him, like when he prepares and has a game plan, really clean. Vic0 in chapter 4, Anas in chapter 3, even Vic0 at the beginning of this chapter, right? Chapter when they came 5th, conned. And then you have meta changes the day before FNCS when you're such a structured IGL and not an adaptable one, not a fight, like not someone like, for example, you know, Vic0 and Flickzy, someone like that, right? Where they're more looking to, you know, shit on teams instantly and you have a set game plan and it changes. It affects you. First of all, it mentally affects you because you're like, well, I've just put all this effort in for no reason. I'm kind of mentally checked out already. And secondly, it's like, well, now I don't know if what I'm going to do is going to work even.
Yeah. No, I think with Pink, I hope it doesn't mentally affect him as bad. Like, I hope he doesn't start getting too down on himself, especially with like Vic0 winning. That can't have helped, you know, like it just can't have helped having Vic0 win his first after you have a bad season. I hope he comes back to EU and he's able to just pick up someone crazy. Like, he's got to get into his bloomy bag and like scout someone who's just nuts and just maybe Pink needs to pick up Phantom, you know, and try cook with him. You know, that could be like a really good option for him. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what he does. Miro as well is a weird one. I don't know if you guys watched Hotline FN last week, but like we had Miro on there, and like he talked a lot about being at a stage in his career now where like he kind of does just care less, and he said he was playing for fun, which a lot of people were like, playing for fun. If I was Pink, I wouldn't want to hear that.
Is already gone there.
Yeah. So yeah,
wait,
it's
so you're saying Miro was on Hotline FN and he didn't qualify it, but Vic0 was an avid podcast watcher and won FNCS.
Boob, that's interesting because I talked about it on my stream yesterday.
Yeah?
If we go through all the people who were on Hotline, you had Queasy. Had a bad FNCS. You had Cease who didn't make grands. You had Blake who didn't make grands. You know, it's interesting, isn't it?
I mean, that just means it's got to mean the podcast is better than Hotline FN. Like that's it.
Just get Vic0 off. Get Vic0 off Hotline FN.
Yeah, do not put him in that level. You're done his globals. Stop.
FNtasia just clears. Clearly, I agree. It does clear. Shout out to all the FNtasia. If you're still listening right now, comment down below. FNtasia clears. Final team I think we want to talk about in NA.
Really? There's another.
The dream. The dream is dead. It's a sad day for EU fans and Fortnite fans all over the world. Mongrel and Mr. Savage did not qualify for the global championships. Salutes everyone.
It's a sad day, you know, when if Epic just wanted to spawn some more scoped DMRs in their landing spot, then maybe we could have seen them at LAN. But it's a sad day, and it's funny because you always think like at the start of the season, if Mongrel Savage went to NA, made grands, came 28th, everyone would be like, you know what, you did pretty well.
Hell yeah,
it was fun, yeah. But after up in the lower brackets, this is a huge underperformance, and we're all really sad that this happened.
It hurts more because like if they just came in and they were like kind of mediocre, we'd be like, okay, yeah, it's whatever. The dream was dead, but like they gave us hope, you know? Like they were doing good in Cash Cup. The scrims were going crazy. They did decent in upper bracket. It was like, oh my god, it's actually gonna happen this season. And then Epic Game just had to remove Slurp plans from them. I'm just gonna blame that on them. There's no other reason why they didn't qualify because of the Slurp plans. But like, yeah, I mean, again, like I didn't watch broadcast. I watched a lot of Mongrel Savage and Cacti this weekend, and it was just like, it was just painful the way they saw them dying, like stupid mistakes. It's like, oh, Mongrel edited like a cone and reset it, and then like a team just jumped on his head, or they got crash padded on one of the game, or they said they got grief, but like they got crash padded on one of the games. Like that was, I don't think they made a single end game as a duo. That's the worst part too. Like we didn't see any of the potential possible, and like. It's funny because I was doing my predictions on my stream, and then Savage was in my chat when I was talking about that. I was like, yeah, they got kind of screwed by the Slurp plan changes, and like I don't know, they're not a team that's like good at like fighting in W keys. Like, yo, Boop, what's up? I'm like, it's like the Undertaker ding came ding, and then he was there. I was like, yo, Boop, we have something cooked. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll believe it. And then I switched up because I'm a pussy. But like, I'm like, okay, I'm down. And then like I was hoping to see something. I was waiting in anticipation, and like there was just nothing. I mean, the day two they had a different strategy, and like it was looking a little bit more hopeful, because they were getting closer to end games and stuff. But it was just, I think the problem is that is a duo that requires a lot of practice because obviously they're in a state of constant improvement. Yeah. And then I think adaptability is hard for a duo like that because they have the game plan. It's like
they found a formula that works.
Yeah, exactly. They have the formula, and then like all of a sudden the formula is now in Chinese, and like what the fuck is happening? And yeah, it's hard for a duo like that to adapt. And I'll put the blame on Epic Games here. I think genuinely if Slurp plans didn't get changed, I think they would have had some running to be top 14, 13 in that global in that FNCS. But like to be fair, that was probably one of the hardest FNCS I think in a long ass time. So yeah, it's just painful.
It's tough because like I think a lot of people will be like, what next now for them?
They're playing together, they said.
I'm glad I hope they do because it's weird. I think had things maybe not looked as good in the lead up to Grands, people would have maybe said, okay, let's, you know, we tried, let's wrap it up. You know, Mongrel probably maybe starts looking at different options and maybe looks to stop this, you know, Fortnite Pro return gimmick or whatever. But the fact that they looked so good leading up to Grands and like there clearly was big improvement from both of them, they surely have to just keep it going, right? Like they should do just keep it going.
Keep the hype going. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you got to keep playing.
I mean, they've had such improvement in such a short time. Like, the question is, where's the ceiling, right? Like, where's the ceiling for them? How much more can they improve upon? And I feel like there is room to maneuver. If they have a year under their belt already, one more year, why not? They're young.
Yeah. I mean, it feels weird to say that for how long they've been around, but they are young, yeah.
19.
Yeah, and if anything now, like, they can just, until they do something, like, they can just keep this gimmick going of like, we're gonna do
the
it,
dream gimmick.
Mongo's back, guys. Mongo's back.
It is literally like England when we're like, it's coming home, you know? Like, they have their own version of that. They just need, do they have like a catchphrase or a tagline that they use? They need to think of one and use it, because, it was sad to not see Mongo and Savage make it. Gonna make LAN a bit less fun for me, I think. But I'll still enjoy it.
Saudi.
Sure.
Really?
They're gonna go? Are they gonna be at?
I think they're getting sponsored thing. So they're gonna do a viewing party there. So you'll see them there probably.
Okay, nice. Alex and Worthy dudded, but I mean, yeah, they called globals anyway, so. You know.
At least we weren't the most embarrassing region. You know?
True, technically, yeah. Technically, we weren't the most embarrassing
Middle
region.
East is better than OC now. I think that just means, right? Like, it's got to mean that.
All I've got to say is King and FNtasia come to EU, contested, get like 40th. QND and Phantom come to EU, get 17th. I mean, there's a conversation. There is a conversation to be had.
Look, after the weekend EU has just had, Harry, let's calm ourselves down.
These are all tier 2 teams we sent to NA. Like Yapko can barely make a EU Grands, and he's nearly making globals on NA. Like,
well, okay, so the one thing I will say is, and I know we spoke about this, Harry.
Yeah,
I think you would say every EU player underperformed except Clix and Vic0. I think Vic0 performed at the level, like coming fourth is sort of like at level that ties Clix's best FNtasia.
Yeah,
it's like a good level for them. And then Yapko and Quanti probably over exceeded expectations. A lot of people thought they might not even make Grands, right? I think other than those two teams, you'd say every EU team underperformed.
I mean, everyone talk about underperforming. Blaha Mixon, what the fuck were they doing this weekend?
Get a landing spot.
I mean, there was literally one clip of Blaha. I don't know if it was Blaha or Mixon. They were landing on the mountain, and this guy fucking bunny hops off the mountain and dies of fall damage. Like, there's just mistakes like that. They look like rookies. I don't know what happened to Blaha and Mixon. They were like the consistent duo when they were in the EU, and then on NA, just I don't know, man. Bad day to be Polish. A bad weekend to be Polish.
Yeah, they couldn't get a landing spot, right? And even on day 2, they had the best day 2 out of any EU, apart from Clix and Theater, right? But they had the second best day 2 out of any EU team, right? But it's not even that inspiring, right? It's a 12th, a 32nd, a 12th, a 9th, a 16th, and 18th. It's not like you're like, wow, what a day. They went crazy. It's like you got endgame 5 out of 6 and you weren't really going crazy. Like, they just didn't set up at all. They could never get a landing spot. I've never seen a team in a grand finals be at that level and struggle to get a landing spot against such bad players. Like, it's crazy. Like, they're just, I don't know. Like, and the fact they came 18th without even a landing spot makes me even more frustrated, because if they could just get a normal landing spot uncontested, I'm so certain they could have still qualified globals, because they did enough. They did more than enough to qualified globals without, like, on day 2 without a landing spot. It's like, give them a landing spot. They could do more. Like, to me, that was like a shame. The rest was just like, I don't know. It was just a sad day to be European. I just say it was just a sad day to be an EU fan.
Definitely. There was almost one saving grace with being an EU fan, but unfortunately, even that did not pull through, because I can reveal the FNtasia NA Finals MVP was indeed the one and only Skinny Pete. Peterbot
underperformed.
Peterbot,
he did underperform.
And Peterbot now with back-to-back NA Finals MVP awards to go with his back-to-back FNtasia titles. He won the MVP award obviously last season after their great run. Wins it again this season. I can reveal though, the points were close across all the people that voted. There were a bunch of people that had Vic0 as their Finals MVP, and it was actually 1 point difference. Like, it was 1 point. Last season, Peterbot was the unanimous MVP. Every single person voted him as the MVP. This season, it was 1 point in it. So it was a very close one. You know, Vic0 almost brought back a dub for EU, but unfortunately,
we don't even get that.
We don't even get that. So
we don't deserve it, honestly.
We don't deserve it. We don't deserve it. Well, look, grand finals, fun as always. fun as always. I mean, definitely in NA, the best grand finals we've had in NA almost ever, maybe, you know, you'd say. Like it was very fun watch, incredible. Looking forward now to the future of global championships and what happens there. In the next weeks, we still have like cash cups and some other Mickey Mouse tournaments. I don't give a fuck about.
Wait, they're not Mickey to Vico.
Well, not Mickey to Vico, yeah. But we obviously have the EWC Esports World Cup taking place next week, as we're recording this, right? Yeah, next week, literally, yeah. So that should be good. We'll have some coverage of that. Anything else coming up that's interesting?
I mean, globals are in 30 days, no?
Well, I mentioned globals, yeah. I mentioned globals already, man.
But yeah, but it'll be the new season after, so basically. So we'll be talking about the new season and everything like that. So
true, yeah.
We got a lot of content coming up. It'll be good.
That'll be good then. Cool. Well, yeah, we'll have some more fun. So I actually enjoy the pods, not in like important times more, because we can like do more fun stuff. So we'll have some like fun top 5 games and like questions of the weeks and hot takes of the weeks and all that fun stuff that you guys enjoy.
The return of the big dog.
The return of, we've missed him, and he's missed the last 2 eps, but he will be back. Resub will be back.
He went in hiding after saying NA was dog shit. That's what happened. He
will be interrogated. Don't you worry.
Yeah, you could send all your flame to him. He was the one who said NA shit this entire time, so blame him.
Blame the big dog, Resub. What are you guys going to be up to over the next week?
Chilling, just streaming, and just chilling until the new season.
Probably sighing, watching a dual cash cup because that shit's boring. And then, you know, EWC, and then, you know, just counting down to globals, you know? That's it.
Anything you guys want to plug? Anything you guys,
I mean, I'm just sad about you. I can't get over it. Like, it's
I was about to cry.
Plug the stream. Coach_Harry. Stream. I'm back streaming daily mornings. Just sort of chilling, watching games, and just hopefully you might learn a thing or two.
Check out those streams, guys. Harry, it's always fun watching Harry pretend he's gonna like analyze and review games and just waffle to chat the whole time. Really, really fun.
Oh, yeah. Chat's good. They bring in good interaction. So yeah.
Of course. Boop, yourself.
I mean, we'll be covering Saudi probably in the next next week. Viewing pointing that twitch.tv/Coach Boop. Just follow my Twitter, boopinit_. That's what the good stuff is always. That's it.
The best coverage of Fortnite out there. So be sure to go show some Boop some love. All right, myself, I'm just out here in it. Love. Peace out. Goodbye. That's it.
He sucks. Womp womp. That's it.
Womp womp. Bye. See you next week. Love ya.
Yep.